Recording in progress.
Okay, now we can go.
All right, so while Raina is cleaning up the spill, we can start the meeting. So this is a regularly scheduled, I think this is regularly scheduled, yes, it is, meeting on the Public Facilities Committee. And we have present at the beginning of the meeting, from Ward 1, we have Councilor Leary. From Ward 2, myself, Susan Albright. From Ward 3, we have Councilor Kelly. From Ward 4, I think Councilor Gentile's not here yet. Ward 5 is Councilor Getz, Ward 6 is Councilor Danberg, Ward 7 is President Dorado, and Ward 8 is Councilor Kalis. And our committee clerk, is this your sort of, I know Scott's here to help you, but you're really sort of more on your own tonight. Linda Pinnell is our committee clerk. And we have other councilors here. We have Councilor Malachy and Councilor, stop. Councilor Lucas. Do we have any other councilors? Councilor Mickley, I see, and there's Councilor Gentile from Ward 4. Councilor Wright from Ward 3, and I don't know, is there anybody else? I think that's it for now, but if you can join us, we will announce them, and we have staff with us, but we will announce them as they come. And we're also joined by Scott Matthews, who is the assistant clerk for the council. And we have Mr. Taverna, who is the former city engineer, but still on this project. And we will put this on mute then. And we have Mr. Yo, who's the chief operating officer. Is that right? For the city. And other staff will be announced as we get to the items. So our first item is 103-24, and 418-24. And it's Councilor Albright on behalf of the Public Facilities Committee requesting an update on planning and construction of the Bullowes Pond Dam. And 418-24, Veronica the Mayor requesting a discussion of the Bullowes Pond Dam Rehabilitation Project and the preferred safety design. So we have had conversation about the Bullowes Pond project, dam project, several times in committee. And at the last time we discussed this, I believe it was President Laredo who asked if the dam safety people could come and answer our questions about the project. So they are here tonight, and Mr. Yo will introduce them. So why don't you introduce him, and then we will start with a presentation from Mr. Taverna, just a reminder. You can start the conversation after that, Mr. Taverna, and get into it with your consultant. So would you introduce thank you.
All right, wonderful. Before we get back to the refresher about the project, Lou Taverna and our consultants at GEI, I just wanted to introduce the State Director of Office of Dam Safety, Bill Saloma, who is on screen here somewhere. I don't see him quite yet, but maybe we can go to a different view here. Hold on a second. All right, wave, Bill, if you're.
Can you go to gallery view so we can see? I don't see him.
Oh, there he is.
He's there.
That's fine.
Okay.
So Bill Saloma is here, along with Rob Lowell. Rob, I forget what your title is now. I don't know if you're head of engineering.
Deputy Chief of Design and Engineering at DCR. Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay, great. And Dave Ouellette. And Dave, what's your title?
Hi, I'm a permit engineer at the Office of Dam Safety at DCR.
Right. So you work on Bill's team there. All right, wonderful. Well, we'll get to you guys in just a second. I know you're very familiar with this case. We're now in our 7th year after the state declaring this dam to be in poor condition and ordering the city to take the action to resolve it. But I thought it would probably be helpful if we just do a quick refresher. Lou, if you could just give us a quick start and introduce our engineer from GEI. Thanks.
So, Mr. Taverna, before you even start, I'll just tell everybody that I believe the biggest issue for the neighbors is the fact that so many trees
Yep.
will be lost. So that's the real the crux of this matter, I think, that's causing these issues. So, and now, Mr. Taverna, I
Yeah,
will
we'll
let you-
certainly address that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lou Taverna, former city engineer. Trying to enjoy my retirement, but they kept me on to work on this project, so here I am. We have a PowerPoint presentation that some of you may have seen before, or some parts of it before. We did it back in November. Lee Wooten from GEI is going to make the presentation. You normally see Jim Nickerson from GEI. He's on vacation this week, so we're going to hear from Lee Wooten. I've known Lee Wooten many years. He's a preeminent dam designer, dam rehabilitation designer. So without any further ado, Lee, why don't you get going on the presentation?
Lou, thank you. You're nice. I will try to share here.
Thanks.
Let me do this.
Do you have permission to share?
And tell me if you can see the screen, see my screen.
And
If you could make it a little, yeah, I guess we can read it.
I'm going to, I just wanted to,
Yes, we can see it.
does that work? Okay. Okay, so start with the aerial view of Bullis Pond Dam. Obviously, the scenery in the neighborhood is a big deal, and we appreciate that. It's right in the middle of Newton, and what I'm going to do is go through some of the identified deficiencies, the design that has been selected, and really what the tree removal impacts are and some of the cost. It's not going to be very long, but the reasons for the project is that the city received an order from the Office of Dam Safety that they have to address the significant hazard of the dam. Because the dam fails, it's going to cause significant property damage and or loss of life, as shown on the inundation map that I'll show you in a minute. The primary spillway is not big enough for the design storm to go past the dam without overtopping the dam. That's the big deficiency, a big deficiency. That kind of overtopping will likely lead to a breach of the dam. And what you want to avoid is having all that water that's behind the dam released at one time. The dam slopes are pretty well overgrown, or the downstream slope certainly is, and the upstream has a few trees. The trees are pretty, we appreciate that. It's just not the right place for them. The other deficiencies that were noted were that there were some masonry repairs needed on the spillway and the low-level outlet. This is a map showing what would happen if the dam were to fail. The area outlined in blue is the sort of the flood, the extent of the flood that's been estimated if the dam were to fail. It goes right through the Newton North High School campus and the neighborhoods downstream of it, and the neighborhoods between the dam and the high school, and it extends all the way to the Mass Pike. Gets things a little bit wet in the Mass Pike, but the dollar damage would be extensive. The number of homes, a lot of homes would be affected. It's not definite that it would cause loss of life, but it is certainly within the realm of possibility. It is classified as a significant hazard rather than a high hazard because that loss of life is not absolutely clear, but the property damage would be pretty big. So the requirement under the state regs for significant hazard dams is that they have to be able to pass, the spillway has to have enough capacity so they can safely pass a designed storm flood without overtopping, or if it's overtopped, that it's safely overtopped. And the spillway design flood for Bullis Pond Dam is what's called the 100-year storm event, essentially a storm that has a 1% chance of happening in any 1 year. It doesn't mean that over 100 years you'll necessarily have one, or that you won't have more than one. But it's essentially what hydrologists have estimated will have about a 1% chance of occurring. And that flood, based on our models, would overtop the dam by about 2 feet. So with that kind of overtopping, the dam has a high likelihood of eroding and failing. And so the dam needs to have some kind of fix to prevent that from happening. And the fix that's appeared that has the best combination of factors is this design of putting some kind of erosion protection on that downstream slope so that that downstream slope is not eroded. You can see that in yellow the outline of the area that tentatively would be covered with some kind of an erosion protection system. It's called articulated concrete blocks. And these are specially designed concrete blocks that interlock and are knit together with cables, and they're put down over the slope and then covered with soil and seeded so that you have a grassed slope. So again, the yellow is the articulated concrete block mat protection. If we looked at a cross section of the dam, those blocks would be buried a little bit, but they're close to the surface on that downstream slope. So there's not a significant amount of excavation that needs to be done to put them in place, but certainly that downstream slope needs to be cleared of trees and graded so that the block mats can be put down with some kind of regular grading without any significant ups and downs. Again, so the different elements of it for the solution for this particular remedial option are to remove the trees and brush vegetation, strip down to about 1 foot of depth, grade the slope so that it's smooth and compact. You might place some bedding layers or some bedding materials. And then we place the block mattresses on the slope and we cover it with seeded topsoil. These are some pictures of a dam where this has been used. It was a dam a remediation that I designed for a dam on the Blue Ridge Parkway at Trout Lake Dam. And you can see the block mattresses over on the left before they're covered with topsoil and seeded. And on the right, you can see after the grass growth is kicked in, what it looks like. In the area of the block mattresses, again, fortunately, all the trees and woody vegetation would need to be removed. Also from the upstream slopes, so that we don't have parts of the dam ripped out during an overtopping event. And from the downstream slope, the tree inventory was done, and the number of trees was about 199, quite a few of them. About 6 of them were greater than 6 inches in diameter. The rest of them were between 0 and 6 inches. This plan shows the areas that would be affected. You see upstream and downstream and on both sides of the bridge over the spillway. This plan shows that the area that both would be affected and the area that would not be affected on the downstream side. The yellow area is where the trees would be cleared. The green area, the trees would stay. So you'd still have a forested area downstream and beside the dam. We looked at a number of alternatives. The three alternatives that really seemed the most feasible were two alternatives where we were going to make it so that the dam would have some kind of wall in the middle of it, either a steel sheet pile wall or a core wall raised. There's an existing core wall buried in the dam, and we were going to raise it as one option. And the idea was that, okay, if we had the overtopping event, the erosion would stop at these particular barriers that you could, with the overtopping and the tree uprooting that would follow, it would not progress all the way across the dam, and you wouldn't have a breach. The option that was selected is the one on the column on the right, and that's that erosion protection with the articulated concrete block mats that I've described already. If we compare the three, these first two options involved a lot of tree removal also. The 172 trees, the articulated concrete block mat option involved the removal of another 27 trees, in addition up to about 200 trees. The first two options involved a lot of work in the road, and they involved utility relocation, and essentially most of the construction happens within the footprint of the road. So the road would be shut down for quite a while. The cost were in the same order of magnitude. Well, the selected design is less expensive by $1 million to a little less than $2 million, depending on which option you compare it to. So those are sort of the major factors here. For all three options involved removal of a lot of trees, and it just seemed like, given the number of trees that were removed, that that last option made the most sense. This is a listing of the permits that are going to be needed. I won't read them all off to you, but there are dam safety permits and then there are various environmental permits and also a historic notification permit. The next steps would be to explore different grant opportunities. The state has some grant opportunities that the town, I think, is actively looking at, and then proceed to final design. We have not, at this point, the design is conceptual. We try to get the final design done between now and the next construction season. And the Conservation Commission is certainly going to be involved in a big way with the design. Office of Dam Safety gets to look at the design and needs to sign off on it. And then the town will need to go out and engage a contractor through the bidding process and fund it. I think that's all I've got. I will see if I can figure out how to get back.
Well, thank you, Lee.
You're welcome.
Jonathan, do we want to hear from the Office of Dam Safety now at this point?
Yes, I think that would be great right now, and then have some dialogue, obviously, with the counselors.
Yeah.
And Bill and team ODS, if you could just review the policy of trees on dams, and how this fits in. I know you all have been out to the site and looked at the site in particular. And then also, if you could comment on the selected option, I think those would be helpful things. And then obviously, whatever questions the counselors have, so.
Yeah, and also, not only the selected option, what role you might have played in its selection, if any.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Salomer, which one of you is speaking?
I'll take it to start. So,
Wait, 1 second, we need to hear you. Can make it a
Increase
little-
it.
Can you turn up your audio?
I was having a lot of trouble getting my video and audio going.
Yeah, better now, we can hear you now.
Okay, as I speak up like that, you can hear okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
All right, should I just paraphrase the policy on trees on dams? I mean, have you guys had a chance to review it yourself? The policy on trees on dams is one of the most consistent policies that we require dam owners to follow when putting together repair projects for aged dams that are suffering from lack of maintenance over the many decades that brought us to where we are. So this dam is not unusual, and nobody is in particular to blame for its current condition, but this is pretty typical of dams across the Commonwealth. So this is one of our highest priorities to get over and settle with dam owners and their engineers. And in general, in a nutshell, the way in dam safety we are educated, and all the seminars that we attend, one of the most common themes is trees don't belong on dams. From the first training seminar that you might go to as a dam safety engineer, when you just get involved in this work, to last year I attended 2 seminars at a regional conference on trees on dams. And I kind of think I know quite a bit about it, but it's a very serious issue. Trees' roots, especially hardwoods, penetrate embankments and literally tear the embankments apart over time. More shallow-rooted trees like pine varieties, they can overtop in winds and pull out big root balls that make the dam very susceptible to like instantaneous stability issues. And with the canopy that, in this particular dam, the canopy that's provided by the tree leaf cover makes it nearly impossible to plant and cultivate what we would call healthy vegetative cover on a dam. What dam safety engineers like to see on a dam is a uniform, healthy growth of grasses that will stand the test of time. And that does a couple of things for us as dam safety engineers. It makes it easier to inspect the dam and identify possible deficiencies that might develop over time. And it also offers a pretty easy way to conduct maintenance year after year, especially on the embankment portions. It's generally recommended that a grassed slope be mowed several times a year to keep the vegetation in check, to prevent weeds from coming up like crazy in the spring months, and to prevent over time the creeping back of woody vegetation, which we worked so hard to get rid of, in our last rehab project. So I think you know where we're coming from with respect to trees. And if you have any particular questions you'd like to offer, I'd be glad to discuss those questions with you.
Okay, I have a couple of people who now put what. So, Councilor Getz, did you raise your hand earlier?
Oh, it was way back in the very beginning, and it was referencing one of the slides. I'm gonna have to, if I, reviewing the slide deck would be the only way to pull it out, because it was in the moment.
Okay,
And it was something
Okay.
that came up, popped up.
Okay,
When
maybe
one
you
of
can-
when the first person was speaking.
okay.
I just not remembering.
Okay, Councilor Kalis, did you have a question for Mr. Salomo?
Yeah, and it did refer to the trees. So specifically, I understand why trees are not recommended on dams. Is the only reason what do blocks do that trees do not? I mean, is it just that it makes it easier for us to maintain or see if there's an issue?
Blocks are designed to prevent erosion. And trees in a flood condition actually can promote it because of, first of all, the ground is saturated, you get high winds, the trees can get uprooted either from the windstorm, leveraging the trees, or you can get uprooting when the overtopping occurs and the flood forces act on the trees. In addition, their roots create seepage paths, but whereas the blocks are buried, they don't grow. And they are knit together so that they prevent erosion of the soil underneath.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. The only other question I have, just so we know it, is on options 1 and 2 from the first presenter. You said there would be a good deal of road work. About how many months road work are you talking about where that road would be closed?
I would guess 2 to 3 months.
Okay,
Yeah,
just
the road will be closed for the duration of the project, with either one of those options. We're looking at 3 months, maybe even 4 months. Then, the road has to be rehabilitated once the dam rehabilitation is completed. So we're looking at 4 months, maybe more, maybe 6 months to get the road back to its current condition.
Certainly the construction of the articulated concrete block mats will need to be some kind of road closures so that they can do the construction on the slope and place the mats. There'll be a crane set up, but the construction will not be digging up the road, which would have happened with the first 2 options.
Thank you.
Councilor Getz, you have your
It
question
was-
now?
Yes, thank you for showing me those maps, because what it was the depiction of the actual impact of that 100-year storm. I wanted to understand what was being depicted in that image. It's the big orange, affected, and what that meant, just was it a 100-year storm? What was it that you were showing us?
I was showing the aerial extent from a bird's eye view looking down of what area would be covered with those mats. And that would also correspond to the area where the trees would be removed. It is the area that we estimated in preliminary design that would be affected by overtopping flows. And outside of that area, most of the trees should remain. Again, in final design, we're going to fine tune it, make sure we understand that we know where the flood flows are going to be. But essentially, we want to preserve the dam. It won't be everywhere where the flood flows go, but it'll be areas where if the flood flow were to your road soil, it would endanger the dam.
Councilor Getz, is that the question
No,
you?
it wasn't.
It's an inundation
I don't
map,
think-
Right,
correct?
it was, yes.
It's an
Yes,
explanation
it
of
was
the
an
yeah,
inundation
inundation
map.
map, and what that meant, in terms of, is it depicting a 100-year storm? What volume of water is actually overspilling? Is it an inch of water? Is it 2 feet of water? I just wanted to understand what that was depicting.
Let me see if I can find. I think it's a storm of multiple inches over like 2 days. And if I can, let me see if I've got that anywhere.
You
The
see,
blue-
it was a huge.
the blue zone.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a huge sort of, You
Yeah, it's
know, it
an
was-
inundation map.
Thank you. You know, it was like sort of, but I didn't know if that meant 2 feet of water, an inch of water, you know, what was it depicting?
At the dam, we estimated the flow over the top of the dam would be 2 feet deep. You'd have 2 feet of water going over the road and then down the other side.
And then that full map was depicting like an overspill of like, you know, just how much water was actually depicted.
So
So-
Lee, I'm just looking at the map now that it's your slide number 3. And based at Hull Street, the depth would be maximum depth of 3 feet. And at Gay Street, it would be a maximum depth of 2.4 feet. And at Newtonville Avenue, it would be a maximum depth of 1 foot. So that blue inundation area varies in depth as it moves farther and farther away from the dam.
So closer to the turnpike is 1 foot, and
Okay.
closer to the dam it's
Okay.
3 feet.
All right,
Yeah, I mean, it does include the Cabot School, the new Cooper Center, the high school, hundreds of homes,
okay,
and parts of the village center as well, so. And also the forest just below the dam as well, so that whole gully that goes down towards Hull Street, you know, goes through the woods, and those homes right along the road, there's a couple low-lying homes
Yeah.
right
Okay.
along the road, so that's
Okay.
that's at risk.
That's a complete failure of the dam, right?
Overtopping.
This is an overtopping of the dam, yeah, a serious overtopping.
Are you all set, Councilor?
well, I just, you know, I don't, you know, the other 2 options, the 1 steel sheet pile and the 2 core wall raise, that modeling and what that was, it was affecting the dam itself, correct? It was like a build that was actually gonna be sustaining the dam itself. Is that?
Which option are you
Well-
talking about?
The 1 and
The sheet
2,
pile.
the
One and
options
two.
1 and 2. I just didn't.
All 3 options essentially maintained the same elevations that are out there now. So in all 3 options, the overtopping depth would be similar to what we estimated it would overtop by now, which is 2 feet. All 3 options were designed to make sure that the dam stayed intact after that flood event. The first 2 options said, okay, we're going to have some erosion on that downstream slope, but we're going to have a hard structure here at the road so that it can't progress any further. The last option prevented the erosion from happening in the first place.
Okay,
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
thank you.
So President Loretta, you're next.
Yeah, I'm gonna take us back a little bit because it's been a while since you were here, and I really need to get a better handle on this whole project with the premise that no one wants to see a major flood. We'll all agree on that. We have an obligation to maintain safety for the public. So the risk of flooding here, is it because the dam itself is weak, or because we're getting potentially so much water from Bolo's Pond and the City Hall ponds that they're gonna overflow the dam?
Well, certainly the source of any risk from flooding is the Mother Nature. We're going to get whatever rain is going to hit us. The drainage area for Bolo's Pond certainly extends. I don't have a map of it to show you, and I don't even remember, but I know it encompasses the area around City Hall. And all that area drains to Bolo's Pond.
Yeah, it does extend to the southeast all the way to Hammond Brook, Hammond Pond,
Okay.
and it extends all the way to the southwest, all the way to Cold Springs Park. So it's a very extensive drainage area.
It's a pretty big area. That's
Large, very large. Yeah.
yes, Blue. Thank you. So that's the source. That's the source of the risk, is just the flooding. The dam doesn't change any of that. The fix is just to make sure the dam doesn't fail when that flooding happens. That flooding all by itself will do a number on a lot of the things downstream, but it will be a slow rise in flooding, and hopefully it'll dissipate. What you don't want to have is a big release when the dam fails.
I read McCullough's book on the Johnstown flood, and I understand that a little bit. What I want to understand to start with is better draining of the city hall ponds and Bolo's ponds, better, not drainage, excavation of the silt and so forth. Will that reduce the risk in the first place?
No,
Not at all.
not at all. The essentially, the waters that cause the flooding are from the normal pond level up. What you do down below doesn't change it much. It might change it a little bit in terms of the flow capacity and getting there, but not enough. Really, the flooding in that kind of event is what happens when Bullis Pond and the other ponds go up above the current level. And if you had a culvert connecting the ponds and it were plugged, then that culvert got unplugged, that would certainly change the hydraulics a little bit.
So, Mr. Taverna, we've been dredging the ponds for years now. If it's not to prevent an overflow, what's the purpose of it?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? My other phone was ringing.
Sorry, we've been dredging the ponds at both the City Hall and Bullis Pond multiple times in my memory over the years. The purpose of that is exactly what, if it's not for the dam safety or making sure we don't have flooding?
Well, the purpose of dredging the City Hall ponds is because the City Hall ponds were specifically designed to collect sediment from the upstream sources that I just mentioned, Hammond Pond and Cold Spring Park, to collect that sediment before that sediment gets into Bullis Pond. So from time to time, those City Hall ponds need to be dredged. The sediment needs to be removed so that they function as they were intended to be designed. If that sediment was not removed, that sediment would find its way into Bullis Pond, where we don't want the sediment. If Bullis Pond wasn't designed to handle that sediment, but the City Hall ponds were designed. Those were man-made ponds designed before City Hall was built. So that's the purpose of sediment removal of the three ponds. They were meant to be settling basins, if you will. They were meant to be dredged and removed from time to time to prevent the sediment from getting into Bullis Pond. But this has nothing to do with the rehabilitation of the Bullis Pond Dam. They're two separate.
But doesn't the sediment in Bullis Pond, wouldn't it cause the base of Bullis Pond to rise, thereby causing the water to rise?
No, because the water goes over the spillway. It's like I think we tried to explain this before. It's very difficult to explain, but think of it as the bathtub. A bathtub with the overflow. With the overflow weir at the tail end of the bathtub. Whether the bathtub is free of sediment or whether the bathtub has sediment in the bathtub, the water still goes over the weir. And what we're designing for is the storm event. And maybe we're missing this, is we're designing for a particular storm event, if you will, and I'll paraphrase, the Hurricane Sandy parks over Newton for 3 days. That's the storm event type that we're designing for. It's that water, that volume of water that the pond can't handle and the dam can't handle. So keep that in mind. It's the storm event. It's not the 1 inch of rain that we may get on Saturday. That's not going to do anything. It's the design storm event that's going to potentially cause the overtopping of the dam, and that's what we're designing to, Councilor.
I guess I'm not quite following the analogy, because if I filled my bathtub with 1 inch of mud, it would hold less water in it, wouldn't it?
But yes, but if you got Hurricane Sandy falling on your bathtub, the water would spill over the spillway, no matter whether it's full or empty. And that's kind of hard to explain,
Yeah.
here on my tablet here. But that's kind of the analogy. And Lee, I don't know if you can give a better analogy, Lee, but
Lou, it might be helpful, how much sediment is in Bellows Pond? I know GEI did check that.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How much sediment is currently in Bellows Pond? I know you guys did check that.
I'm not sure that we did. Well,
yeah, we did. Yeah,
I don't have an answer.
we did check it, Lee.
Okay.
It was far under 6 inches. I'm thinking it was like 1 to 2 inches of sediment.
Okay.
It wasn't a lot of sediment because the city hall ponds were functioning, so they were collecting the sediment, not Bellows Pond.
Counselor, if I could just jump in very quickly, this was my profession for 30 years. The watershed is quite large. The city hall ponds are tiny compared to the overall volume during a Hurricane Sandy event. The volume of water that then happens, the water will be up onto the roadway here in front of City Hall, no matter what, whether the ponds, City Hall ponds, are in state of dredged or undredged. It's going to have, down at the dam at Bellows Pond, is going to have no impact on how much water is going over there. This is such a big watershed going way far up that these ponds and the silt in these ponds is going to have infinitesimally small impact on what's going on down at the dam.
So I appreciate the
Yeah.
expertise. So
I'm trying to.
it's gonna have some effect, obviously, but it's minimal is what you're saying.
Yes, and I
mean,
think
I
our goal
just
is
think
always
no
to not allow these things to get too full. I think it's fair to say the last time, largely because of permitting from the federal government, we had some permitting challenges in getting approval to dredge, but they should be dredged every, 6 or 7 years. We have a new plan we've set up to dredge the first pond on a more regular basis so that we don't have to dredge all 3 of them. So they should stay in a good repair, but it doesn't have any impact down.
So I'll take it, I respect you, you have far more expertise than I do, Mr. Yeo, in this area. So I understand the premise here that regardless of what we do with the ponds at City Hall or Bellows Pond, we have a concern that we could have a flood. So what I want to understand next is, did the consultant and Mr. Taverna, you came up with a series of alternatives, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. The alternatives analysis proposed a series of alternatives. The 3 we showed tonight were what we considered the best of the 3, best of the options.
I'm trying to understand the process whereby you got there. So you had what, 9 or 10 alternatives to start?
Yeah, we had 9 alternatives. Yes.
And your team then came and selected 3 of those 9, right?
Correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
And Mr. Taverna, who did you consult with as you were winnowing it down from the 9 to the 3?
We did meet with the representatives of the Bellows Pond Association, and we did discuss those options with them. We also discussed the options with the Office of Dam Safety with them, and we discussed the options with the Executive Office.
I see Mr. Saloma has his hand.
Oh, yeah,
raised.
Mr. Saloma has his hand up. Yeah.
Do you want to add to this? Mr. Saloma, did you want to add to this conversation?
Yes, thank you very much. Just to confirm, the drainage area is 3.2 square miles, which is pretty significant drainage area considering the urbanization of the drainage area that contributes to the impoundment.
Okay.
And I think something might have been lost in the context of that map that we were talking about. That's an inundation map that predicts the flow path of floodwaters that would result from a catastrophic failure of the dam, which could be caused by an overtopping event.
Mr. Saloma,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I understand and accept the professional conclusion that this is a wide floodplain. There's potential for overtopping of the dam. The overtopping of the dam could have potentially near catastrophic consequences, at least very serious consequences. We don't want that to happen. So what I'm trying to understand though is our internal thought processes whereby we came from 9 to 3 to the recommended alternative, because we're being asked essentially to approve one of the recommended alternatives. So, Mr. Taverna, you said you met with the Bullows Pond Advisory Group regarding all 9 alternatives. When did you meet exactly?
It's the fog of war. I believe it was sometime in 2021 or 2022. I don't have that information in front of me, but we met with them more than once. We heard their concerns. We heard their concerns loud and clear. And then we proceeded with culling, if you will, culling the options down from 9 to 3. A couple of those options were kind of non-starters. One of the options that we presented early on that was a non-starter was removing the dam. If you remove the dam, you save all the trees. The dam is no longer jurisdictional, but there is no dam. The trees stay. The dam goes, and Bullows Pond is no longer a pond. That was rejected. That was rejected early on as not being in the best interest of the city of Newton.
Mr. Taverna, I understand when you put out 9 alternatives,
Yeah.
often 2 or 3 are just non-starters completely.
Yeah.
You said you met in 2021 with this, or 2022 with this dam group, the Representative Bullows Pond Association.
Yeah.
Between then and now, have there been any meetings between the city hall officials and that group?
Yes.
When did they take place?
The last one I believe was in November.
Of 2024. At that point, had you made your selection as to the alternative you were gonna go with?
Yes, we had. Yep.
All right, so between the time you presented you had your 9 alternatives and the time you came up with the selected choice, there was no consultation with that group, is that right?
There was a previous meeting a couple months before that.
And were all 9 alternatives on the table
I
then?
don't remember, some of the ones that were non-starters, I don't think were.
Well,
Yeah.
how many of the, I'm just trying to get the sense of process here. How many alternatives were on the table at that time?
I don't remember. I know that the ones that are non-starters, which were quite a few of them, I don't think we even brought forward, because they weren't relevant, so.
I'll wanna know personally, before I'm ready to vote for this, I wanna know a much more detailed sequence of time. So of the 9 alternatives, okay, that you came up with, how many were presented to the Office of Dam Safety?
Mr. Taverna, that's a question to you, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with the answer. I believe that we presented these 3 options you saw tonight. I believe we presented these 3 options to the Office of Dam Safety, if I recall. Shauna, do you recall, Shauna?
The Office of Dam Safety say we want the one that you have chosen, or do they say any of these 3 alternatives are acceptable?
Maybe that's
I would defer to them.
Yeah. Mr. Saloma, could you answer that question? Are you able to answer that question?
So I do remember having a discussion about the 3 alternatives: raising the core wall, installation of a sheet pile cutoff, and the flattening of the slope with the articulated block. I remember being concerned about, sometimes it's hard to remember specifics of particular projects, but I think, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think bedrock was relatively shallow beneath this dam.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's correct.
So that presented issues pertaining to getting a tight connection to the bottom of the sheet. Generally, you'd like to drive sheets to near refusal, but the bedrock was not very deep, and it was going to require, so that would lead to a requirement to somehow provide the stability and the anti-slipping potential for the sheet by using some kind of, I forget what it was. Lee, do you remember, like a bulk block assembly to attach to the sheets? And I thought that was just overcomplicated. And I also thought, or we thought, that disassembling the dam essentially to reroute and reposition the utilities, along with the difficulty of providing the stability of the anchor of that sheet, to me, it didn't seem to make much sense moving forward with that option.
So, Mr. Soleil, did you reject the other two alternatives and say go with the third one?
No, it's up to the dam owner to make a selection on which alternative they want to go forward with, but I don't feel strange or anything by saying I think it's a much better option to put in the slope treatment.
Was your thought process documented in any kind of writing to the city?
That's not the way we operate. We try to be helpful with communications and meetings with dam owners and their engineers to bounce ideas off one another. That's how like just asking questions about the sheet that led to my realization that the sheet might be difficult because of the shallow depth of the bedrock. So we just, discuss it back and forth.
Just to be clear, when you decide strike that, let me re-ask the question. Do you make the ultimate decision as to whether a design alternative is acceptable or not? Or do you just give advice to the dam owner as to what your thought process is?
I think the latter. We're not in the business of telling people what to do, and that's that comes right out in the initial order that we issued to the city in this case, and everybody. Your dam has been identified as having serious structural deficiencies. These are the deficiencies, and we're ordering you to bring the dam into compliance by removing the dam, adequately breaching the dam, or completely removing the dam. And it's up to the dam owner to select and hire an engineer, a competent engineer, and work together with the engineer, and often and usually actually in consultation with us to make sure that the regulation requirements are going to be met in whatever design is put forward for us to review.
As we sit here today, do you have any concern about options 1, 2, or 3 not meeting the minimal requirements?
Well, right now, they're still pretty schematic. So GEI would have to demonstrate that the options meet the required factors of safety that are written into our regulations. But, on a schematic basis, there's nothing at this point that indicates they would not be approvable.
Okay, just one more question. I don't want to dominate the conversation. It's not fair to everyone else. You described about $650,000 of street and utility work that would have to be done under alternative 3, but not under alternatives 1 or 2. Maybe Ms. Sullivan or Mr. Taverna, the condition of that road there is not particularly good. Am I correct?
Okay.
Well, perhaps a PCI of under 60, shall we say?
It's about, I think, a 55.
Yeah, I go running there on a regular basis, so I know what the
Yeah,
road's
it's not
like.
in the best shape.
It's not in the best shape, so the odds are that we'd be doing repaving work there anyways, correct?
The glitch on this is that it would probably require utility relocation.
All right, so if of that 650,000, it would be helpful to figure out what portion of that's utility work, which would be different unless there's some underlying need to do utility work, versus just repaving, which is going to have to be done in the near future anyways. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Councilor Kelly.
Oh, boy, I so appreciate that we have people here from GEI and the Office of Dam Safety, because I was really in over my head the first time we talked about this, and I have a better understanding now tonight about what's going on, but I think I may not have all the terminology correct. My questions are a lot more specific than President Laredo's were, and sorry if I get the terminology wrong. I think back when Mr. Wooten was doing his earlier presentation, he showed a map that showed what I'm calling like the overtopping flow area, which I think was orange. And then next to it was the remaining greenery wild area. That was the area that I'll say, to me, I understood to be sort of clear cut and then replaced with this concrete block system covered by matting, covered by seating. Is that a correct understanding so far? I think this is from Wooten.
Yeah, the orange area, or yellow, I think, I forget, is the area that would be cleared and would, when it's all said and done, would have the appearance of a grass slope. And the other area would be, the trees would be left alone. The actual boundary still needs to be double checked for final design, but roughly that is the limit of disturbance, I would call it.
Okay. And about what is the area size, square footage of that area? Because my understanding is that it was that kind of clear cutting, which seems so counterintuitive to many of us and many of the neighbors, that you would take out all that vegetation and trees and replace it with concrete blocks covered by what will be like grass. What is the size of that area approximately? I understand it's not a definitive plan yet, but about how big is that area?
Not sure that I have the square footage for you.
Yeah, I think we're showing Lee on one of the tables.
We've got about 8,200 square feet. That was on one of the slides. That is the area of the concrete block mattress.
Which I would call a highly engineered solution compared to what now looks like kind of a natural situation. And that's why I call it counterintuitive. I think people thought, roots of vegetation and plants could help stabilize that slope. You're actually saying just the opposite, that those roots help to the destabilization. Did you also say that the current spillway is undersized?
Yes.
And what is the solution to that? Do you plan on changing the design and or size of the spillway? So it will still be undersized. It'll be the same. It's just that this whole newly created embankment situation will handle the overflow better than current.
Correct.
Oh, good. I understood.
Yeah, I think one of the other options, correct me if I'm wrong, Lou, is to make a bigger dam essentially.
Yeah, you would do a line.
But it's
Take
not
down
going
those
to with this
houses
solution.
yeah.
It's the same. It'll stay the same.
That's
You're
right.
just expanding the erosion embankment area.
You're protecting what we have.
Handle
Yeah.
the remaining undersized spillway.
Right.
Okay.
In fact, in December of 2022, I was looking in my email, there were 4 options, and the 4th was increase the spillway
Why was that?
capacity.
I'm sorry.
So that was rejected for the reasons they've been talking about just now.
Thank you. I just wanted to be clear that I was understanding this properly, because I was not at our last meeting. And I think my natural confusion or objection was reflected in many of the residents when Mr. Taverna was talking about, you have met with the Bellows Pond group. They don't seem convinced that this is the solution they want either, as far as what I can read, but do you have more updated information on that? Anyone?
I'm not sure what the question is.
Is there more updated information on where the Bellows Pond group, whatever their name is?
Yeah.
Here.
I think they're sitting behind you.
We haven't met since.
Yeah, well, we received some letters today from,
Yes, but the group hasn't met, hasn't been called together, I think, waiting for this meeting to happen.
Okay,
I believe that's the reason why we haven't met.
so I look forward to hearing from you. We got your letters today, again, okay, trying to raise that up.
Okay, so are you all set, Council?
Yes, thank you.
Council Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This issue has been going on for, I think, 5 or 6 years, right? 7? Okay. Yeah. So just not to beat a dead horse or anything, but I want to make something more clear regarding the 9 options. I know some of them were thrown out because they were things like removing the whole dam completely, which of course would bring that back to its natural state prior to the 16th century, right? But
Some of us may like that.
I know, it could work.
I didn't say I was one of them, but I'm gonna put that out there.
But did all the viable options, like things that seem reasonable, did they all require the same, this significant amount of tree removal?
The 3 options that we put up had similar, but the 2 options where we made the center of the dam robust required slightly less tree removal. I think it was probably about
I was asking not
80 or 85% of the tree removal was required because we had to get the trees away from the low-level outlet. We had to get trees away from the spillway flows. So it turns out that
I think the question is, were there any viable options that required less tree removal than the 172 even?
Yeah, I think that there was an option, Lou, correct me if I'm wrong, that built a giant dam, maybe like in the middle of the pond.
Yeah, the option, one of the options that was,
The current dam was no longer a dam essentially.
yeah,
You
it was,
can't go half the pond.
yeah, it was to enlarge, it was to, build a large spillway.
Dig
A much larger spillway than what you see out there today. That would have to be, of course, upstream of the existing spillway. You'd build a much larger spillway. That spillway would handle the design storm event. The issue is the city still has trees on the dam. So that became an issue, but we rejected that option. And one of those, that alternative early on, as we were trying to come up with some cost estimates of that was, maybe almost 3 times as costly as the options that we presented here to you tonight. So that was rejected early on.
Did you look at impacts on like wildlife as well, or when you were discussing the options? Was that it all?
We mostly focused on the trees, Lee, as I understand. I understand there's wildlife there, but we were focusing on the trees itself.
that kind of the environmental permitting required for the project certainly has got to look at that.
Correct. That's correct. That would be upcoming. Correct.
That's upcoming, okay. Obviously, we're looking to see as few trees removed as possible. I mean, but you're making a good case for why you need to go with this 172 trees, but
199.
199.
Preferred options.
The other question I had was, of the 3 preferred options, one of them, 2 of them required a street closure for a longer period of time. Was that one of the reasons why they were not being considered, or were there other things also that were better with the final option you decided on?
Well, those 2 options they require existing utility relocations. There's water mains and gas mains nearby that would be disturbed by the construction of either of those 2 options. That would require, the road to be closed, for a longer period of time. Option 3 doesn't require any utility relocations because we're not, digging into the road. But that wasn't the only factor. The other factors, option 1, the sheet pile wall is a far more risky construction, as we alluded to earlier. To seat the sheet piles within the bedrock is a risky proposition. So that construction methodology has quite a bit of risk. Option two, the extension of the existing core wall. That's a risky proposition too, because we don't know the condition very well of the existing core wall, yet we'd be relying on that existing core wall to be raised, to complete option two. So the road closures was not the end all be all as far as us guiding ourselves to option three, above option one and option two.
Okay, I just have a couple more questions. One, are any private trees being impacted? Is a very close abutter.
No, I don't think so.
No, these are all within the public property.
Okay, and then has the dam's been there since the 16th century? Has it come?
In some form, yeah.
Has it ever come close to overtopping? I'm thinking especially, what about Hurricane Carol in the 1955 or whenever that happened?
So we did some research. We could not find any evidence of the dam overtopping. You're aware that we're designing to the current design storm, not the Hurricane Carol or the Hurricane Donna that came through when I was a young child, but we're designing for what we've recently seen, mostly in the southeastern United States, but certainly in New Jersey in 2012. So that's the type of storm that we're designing to. That's the type of storm, if you will.
Yeah, but something like when we had those very heavy rain events a couple summers ago, and then the parking lot and the library flooded. Did that impact the dam at all?
That was nowhere near the 100-year storm event. That was a big flash event where you get a big downpour and you get a whole bunch of rain, and then 20 minutes later it's gone. That's not what we're designing to. We're designing to this long-term. I think it's 8.78 inches of rain over 24 hours. This long-term, long-duration storm. That's the type of storm that we're designing to now. But anyway, to answer your question, we found no evidence of overtopping.
Okay. Well, all those things, with climate impacts and the really heavy precipitation, it may be more likely that we would get a storm like that. If not.
Well, yeah, that's true. We've seen them in the southeast United States. We've seen them in New Jersey back in 2012. So we've seen them.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Okay.
Stanford.
Thank you. Actually, Councilor Leary touched on one of the questions, or a couple of the questions that I had. We know that the dam has been there in some form since the 1600s. How old is the current dam?
It's at 1922, I believe. It was 2 years of construction. I think it finished in 20. So I think it just had its 100th anniversary. This version of the dam.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've had the hurricane of 38 that was the mother of all hurricanes, the perfect storm.
But not compared to what's happening now, though.
Yeah, 44, Carol, Edna, Diane, Donna, Bob, Gloria, Sandy. And what's happening now? So far, we've had no breach. Have we come close to a breach, or what about in 2010 when we had, I think that was Sandy, and then we had all those rains in March?
Yeah, I understand. In 2010 we came close, but the dam did not breach. The water did not overtop the dam embankment. The spillway held. The water overtopped the spillway, and the spillway held. We had no evidence of overtopping. You're asking questions that your city engineer asked on day one when I approached my consulting engineers with their hydrologic analysis. I had the same questions you did. How does your hydraulic analysis show that's going to overtop? But when you look at the numbers, when you dive into the to the hydrologic analysis, yes, indeed, it will overtop. The numbers, the data convinced me.
Okay, so I think we can at least agree that this work needs to be done, as opposed to leave it alone and it'll be okay for the next 100 years. So we have to do something. in option 3, I noticed that the 199 trees was costing 300,000 as opposed to the removal of 199 trees in option 1. Why is it 1/3 more expensive in option 3?
Oh, that's the tree fund. That's the, you cut down the trees, you have to pay into the tree fund. So it's the number of trees in the caliper, the diameter. So we would have to pay into the tree fund.
Yeah, we're assuming that, like Josh Morse is doing on school projects.
Yeah.
That we would pay into the fund and we would plant substantial number of trees in this neighborhood and throughout the city.
Okay, and in option 1, that wasn't considered paying into the tree
Well,
fund?
Well, what, under all the options, if the trees are cut, then we're gonna need to pay into
Right,
the fund.
but why is it more expensive in option 3 for 200 trees than in option 1 if we're paying into the tree fund in both cases?
Because of the number of trees in the diameter, the caliper.
It's the caliper.
It's the caliper. We pay into the tree fund, it's by caliper. So that's why it tends to be more expensive because we're taking down a
We
few more
actually
trees.
measured every single tree in there and how many caliper inches and calculated what.
And forgive me, are the trees different trees of less caliper inches, fewer caliper inches in option 1?
They're all the same trees. One has a few more trees.
Okay, then I'm missing something.
Yeah.
If the same trees are being taken out in
No, it's
option
not the
1 and
same
3, why is it more expensive in
They're all-
option 3?
They're all the same trees. So Lou, and maybe, we still have to comply with the policy.
Wait, but I think the question is, they're not all the same trees, because one is 172 and one is
Yeah, one has a few
199.
No,
more than the
no.
other.
There's 20,
Option 1 is 199, option 3 is 199.
No.
72, options 1 and 2 are
Yeah.
172 trees.
Yeah.
Option 3 is 199 trees.
More trees and
But-
more caliper in option 3.
Right, but am I mistaken in looking at that chart? Because I saw 200,000, 200,000, 300,000.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So,
about right.
so if I could just, there's a few more trees in option 3 that have to be cut because you have to lay the blocks down, right? So no matter what, we have to comply with the state's policy on trees on dams. So at least 172 need to be cut
Okay,
to comply with that, to preserve the safety of the dam, no matter what. With the blocks, there's a few more trees that need to come down in order to lay the blocks down on the backside of the dam.
okay, I'm not gonna beat this one, I don't quite still understand, but let's leave it alone.
I'll meet you out there.
Yeah, I'll ask later on. Replacement of the trees. It will happen in the area?
That's generally what we try to do. We work with the city forester, Mark Welch, to add trees in the area. Sometimes you reach a saturation point where you can't get, enough trees in that zone, and then we'll widen out from there, so.
Okay, and there are several inches of soil that go on top of the mat, the concrete in the mat. That's enough to hold the roots for the grasses that we need. They don't need deeper roots in order to hold on in a bad situation if we get lots of rain.
Blocks have open cells so that, and you fill those cells, and that's really where the roots take hold. I like to cover the blocks entirely, but certainly the grass roots are strongest in those open cells. And if the grass growth is robust enough, it covers up. In some cases, in some installations I've seen, it's the concrete blocks can show a little bit through the grass. I think we'd like to try to cover them completely. After an overtopping event, that cover might not be there.
But it can be
You just
replanted.
replace it, yeah.
It can be
And the top
replaced.
stays and the matting will stay.
Yeah.
Okay. You've given us 6, I think, for good reasons why the trees have to be removed. I'm sorry that those trees would have to go, but I think I'm convinced that, we couldn't keep those trees there, if we're gonna go with, any of these three options, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's it. Thank
Okay,
you.
so before I call him,
I'm fine, I'll
You're all
go to
set?
the other folks.
okay, I just have one quick question. Mr. Paloma, you said at the beginning that the dam is in poor condition. Is it in poor condition just because there are trees, or what else causes you to say it's in poor condition?
The
Oh,
two
it's
big
got a-
reasons
It's
are
got a
the,
number of deficiencies as called out in the last several inspection reports. Unwanted vegetation in areas of the dam, including large trees. We've been talking about that. Scarping along the upstream slope and bare soils prone to erosion along the downstream slope. So there's erosion on the upstream and downstream side of the dam, quite extensive. Deterioration, potential unstable head wall at the downstream end of the low-level outlet, and observed scour, displaced riprap within the channel. I mean, these are common signs of, age-related wear and tear. We don't think the dam is going to like fall down tomorrow, but it's been identified as being structurally deficient and poor condition, and our regulations prescriptively require us to issue certificates of noncompliance and dam safety orders to abate those issues, to bring the dam back into compliance. So this is pretty typical of what we deal with. And this was issued, the certificate was issued July 16th, 2018. And we very much, before we break up, I want to congratulate the city for being so into this project. The engineering and operations staff have conducted inspections. They completed a 2020 phase 2 investigation. That's a deep dive into deficiencies at the dam. GEI was commissioned to do the alternatives report in 2023. You guys, I read in the record, you guys contemplated this back in November of 24. So it sounds like you got a solid team here. The end game is to get this dam repaired and get the certificate released from Office of Dam Safety. I just wanted to run that by everyone so they knew where we were coming from overall.
Yeah.
And most recently, we sent the mayor's office a request dated February 28th, 2025 to please assemble all the community's thoughts on this dam and get a response back to us laying out a potential timeline to bring it into compliance.
Thank you. And just a question for Mr. Wooten. So all of the deficiencies that were referenced just now by Mr. Saloma will be corrected by this option 3 or any of these other options?
yes. And the big one that,
Spillway capacity.
spillway capacity. Yes, being able to pass the flood safely.
The spillway capacity I thought wasn't going to change.
Well,
It will. with
essentially, the
overtopping
dam becomes a spillway.
Say that again?
The
Say that again.
overtopping, the fact that you can overtop the dam means the dam is an auxiliary spillway. When the main spillway reaches its capacity, the dam overtops, but it can overtop safely. So,
Okay. So it's increasing the spillway in the case of an overtopping.
Yeah,
And to do it
safely as
safely.
opposed to a catastrophic
Got it.
failure. I do want to just quickly mention, you probably read in the news that Leominster had 15 inches of rain in 6 hours. Catastrophic damage throughout that city. And that could have easily been here. That storm, we were watching the radar down in DPW, and it just went west of us. It could have been here. The damage in Leominster, they still don't know what to do about it, and they didn't get nearly enough state federal aid to deal with it. So I know that Mayor Fuller's talked to the mayor of Leominster several times about it, and it's devastating for the community. So
I know that when you watched the reports of what happened in Asheville this past year, where my niece lives, they all the people said we've never had a flood like this ever before.
there's also a topography there, because they're surrounded by mountains, so that wouldn't have happened exactly here, but they have all that rain coming down from the hills, in both in Leominster and in.
Look, I don't think, at least I don't think there's anyone at this table who's quarreling with or questioning the concept that we need to have a safe dam. Period, full stop. We don't wanna have a Leominster situation or something like that. The question for us is which alternative we're going to recommend. That's the question for us. And I thought I heard you say that all of the deficiencies will be fixed with any one of these three alternatives, but my understanding is at least two of them do not involve any review of the dam itself. There's wear and tear in the dam itself. This is dealing with spillover and dealing with trees, which affect the stability. Am I missing something here?
Any fix you do will need to address the deficiencies that Bill listed. The hard ones to fix are the spillway capacity and the trees. The others are sort of small potatoes.
Well,
but important.
I thought, though, I heard Mr. Taverna say that one of the alternatives would involve looking at the dam structure itself, and there was concern about doing so because we didn't know what the condition of that would be. Did I miss something there?
So that was looking at the existing core wall. The existing
Yes.
core wall of the dam. That's what I was referring to. Yeah. These other things,
I'm not following that, Mr. Taverna.
Oh, I'm sorry. Alternate two is to extend the existing core wall to a higher elevation, so that so that you're essentially strengthening the existing core wall. You're going to strengthen it and make it taller. That was the option. That's alternate two. What we don't know as of today is how strong is that core wall. So it's a very risky option. It means excavating on both sides of the core wall, determining how strong it is, and then relying on that existing core wall and making it taller in order to.
Well, if we don't know how strong that, if we don't know how strong that core wall is, isn't that something we ought to be trying to figure out now?
Well, there's no way to do that without major construction, major investigation of the dam. There's no physical way to do that at this point.
Could you just educate me, how much money would it cost to examine the core wall to make sure that we're truly not just solving one problem, but we still have an underlying problem?
I think that particular option was not attractive enough to us.
Correct. Yeah.
To undertake further investigation.
Why wasn't it attractive enough?
Because we were depending on the extended core wall to be stable in the event a lot of soil was removed downstream, and at some point you'd remove enough soil that core wall, even if it's extended, could be unstable. As an engineer, it was the least attractive one to me. And it was also the most expensive because of the amount of
analysis for a moment, okay? Although I want to leave cost out of the analysis for a moment. Just leave cost out of the analysis.
Sure.
Are you saying it would have been risky to examine the core wall? And we're better off not knowing the condition of the core wall?
I'm saying that even if the core, based on the information we had, that was the least attractive to me. And I think to the others on the design team, because of uncertainties about how much soil would be eroded downstream. I think the stability of that scheme depended on a fair amount of soil being uneroded in an overtopping event. You can imagine if a wall is going to stand up much better if it's got a lot of soil holding it up. If all that soil is eroded down, then it's a lot, the potential for it to topple is greater. And it's hard to predict the depth of erosion.
Mr.
So that's
Woodward,
why that particular fix was less attractive.
when you were comparing the three alternatives, what weight were you told to give to the cost of each of those in your analysis?
We weren't told
we-
anything about
Not
weights.
factored.
We provided the numbers.
Well, I'm telling you,
And,
what, that's
I
not,
want to hear what he says though.
okay.
Did you weigh in your analysis whatsoever the cost of the three alternatives?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, Councilman Mallory.
My next, thank you. Can the gentleman on Zoom hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, first question, and comment for, Mr. Saloma, and it's really nice to see you, we've heard so much about you. Maybe I'm the only one here who's actually been to the Arlington Reservoir Dam, actually twice. I went on Monday and 5 years ago. And that is where Arlington was allowed to do a sheet pile wall and kept trees for the entire length of the dam, with the exception of the interruptions for the two spillways. So, and I've got a slideshow if anyone wants to see it, but you can all just pull up on your Google Maps, and it's basically the south end of the Arlington Reservoir is all the dam, and it's all tree lined. So I'm wondering, how is that allowed? That happened they did the dam around 2005. It got all kinds of awards in 2006, and it's been there for 20 years. So they got to keep their trees.
That's a question for Mr. Solomon, right?
Yeah.
That was done before my time. I think that the construction occurred from around 2001 to 2003 or so. And I don't want to comment on somebody else's project. I don't. That was a different time. Put it that way. It was 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. I knew about that. I observed it. I was not in charge of dam safety at that time. So I'd rather not comment on that.
And I would just suggest that there might be different geologic conditions and different conditions to bedrock at those locations that might enable a sheet pile wall better, that we've got restrictions and concerns at the Bellows Pond due to the bedrock being so close to the surface. So maybe that's a contributing factor.
Maybe. I have a question about first of all, the modeling of the flooding scenario, the map, as I understand it, that is what would be predicted to flood if there's a actual dam breach and a whole lot of water at once, correct? That's for, I guess, the GI people?
Yes.
Okay, have you modeled,
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
have you modeled what would happen if there's overtopping with a 100-year storm or a larger storm without a breach? What kind of flooding would occur downstream? You said there would be some.
There'd be a lot of flooding. I don't think that we have that mapped out. So.
Okay, because I'm wondering, would it not be preferable to try to increase the capacity of the spillway so that the water started going over it in a high volume storm earlier, rather than waiting until the dam overtopped?
We looked at the alternative of making the spillway bigger, and it was not as attractive to us. Essentially, I think you need to build a new bridge. If we make that spillway bigger, you'd have to extend the structure further out into the reservoir. It puts a lot more pressure on the downstream road and culvert if you do that. And it has a limit. The overtopping solution gives you a little more flexibility. If the 100-year storm becomes bigger in the years to come, you've got a safe overtopping solution that will work even if it's going to be, 3 feet over the dam.
It hasn't been modeled, what would happen with the overtopping of any size.
We haven't modeled, well, part of the hydraulic modeling that we did involved the existing conditions. And the fixes would restore the grades to the existing conditions. So I think those base conditions were part of the modeling that we did. Essentially, the flooding that the area would experience now, absent a dam breach, is similar to the flooding that the downstream areas are going to experience after we fix the dam.
Okay, before I forget, at the last working group meeting in, I guess it was January, okay, I think, January, it was January 21. You said you hadn't modeled the effect of the washing away of the sod planting if that were to block the Hull Street culvert grade. Has that been modeled yet?
I missed the question.
Okay, we had, because of the concern that the downstream on Hull Street where the metal grade can get clogged up or has in the past with the duckweed, and that was what was the cause of the flooding in Newtonville back in, I guess it was 1990. We were concerned that washing away of sod could have the same effect if it were to wash down and all of a sudden there'd be no time to clean it out, obviously. So, but that had not been modeled as of our January meeting. Is that going to be modeled?
Modeling that we did looked at the downstream culverts and the configuration of the roadways. We did not model having those roadways or culverts fail and wash out. If that's,
yeah, I think you said at the time that that was not a concern of ODS, so that was not part of your scope, I guess.
correct. It was not part of what we did.
A loader there
You
to
can have a person-
unblock the culvert every
That's good,
storm.
okay. So getting back to my other train of thought, my interest in increasing the spillway was not so much making it longer, but using a piano key weir, which, as from my reading, sort of increases the capacity of a spillway by about 4 times. Not that you would necessarily want to go that far, depending on the constraints downstream, but has that been, we were hoping to get feedback on modeling of that and kind of a animation of it, how that could work to increase the spillway capacity rather than waiting for the dam to overtop.
So the question is, did you put piano key weir?
Right.
I'm sorry, would,
Have you explored the piano key weir
To
solution?
increase the capacity by that method rather than by making a sort of longer weir that would require a big.
that was the way we would have to, we'd have to use some kind of extended weir, like a piano key weir or something. And we'd have to probably enlarge the channel downstream, possibly requiring a bigger bridge or a wider span on the bridge.
Is that one of the 9 alternatives that you presented to ODS?
Yes.
But we never saw that. presented to us.
It was discussed in that December 2022 meeting as well as the fourth option.
We never saw PNOP where.
Never.
Numbers or models or prices or anything.
Yeah, it was just not as attractive to us. And it does put more water downstream faster. The proposed solution mimics the current flood conditions and removes the risk of the dam failing. So that was attractive to us too. If you put more water downstream faster, you've got that has its own sets of problems. Sometimes that's a good solution. In a suburban area with a lot of high value property downstream, it could open the city up to litigation. So if somebody gets flooded sooner downstream, that's a factor you have to consider.
Well, I think we never really saw a model, what would it look like spreading out the water over time by letting it
Correct.
go over here sooner rather than waiting until it went over the height of the basically Dexter Road. So we never saw that model. And I just wanted to note that back in, this was at our, regarding the condition of the current dam at our at the November 20th Public Facilities meeting, when Councilor Farrell asked about the condition of the dam and had it shown significant deterioration over the past 50 years, Jim Nickerson said, the only real observation structurally of the dam are some masonry things that need to be repointed and repaired. I think some of the low-level outlet work, the gate valves have been replaced, and there's some conditions on the head wall that are fairly simple, minor repairs that need to be made during any project. But from an embankment stability standpoint, it looks to be in good shape, and so structurally it appears to be in very good condition. That was as of November. He said that. Thank you.
So we've been joined by Councilors Krinsman, Farrell, and who's the other one, Downs. And Councilor Farrell, I see you had your hand up, and then Councilor Lucas. Is Councilor Farrell still there? Councilor Farrell, did you want to ask something or say something?
I just, I'm sitting here listening, and I must admit, I'm not an authority in any of this, but it seems to me that what we're talking about is limiting the devastation, but there's going to be devastation significant if you in fact have a 2-foot wall of water that overtops this dam. The matting that you're putting on the far side, as I understand, will diminish the chance of that area from eroding. But once you get past that matting, won't this 2-foot wall of water not only rush down into all of the other areas that you've already talked about, but begin to erode all of the lower land just below the matting? And how soon before the matting itself fails? I mean, I'm sorry, I listened to this and I just.
Sure, it's a very good question. The mat, you want to take the matting to anchor it down at the bottom so that it will prevent erosion from progressing up the slope, and to anchor it up at the top so that it can't be eroded at the top. You want it to stay intact. That's part of the design. You're right. It's not just laid there loosely. You tie it down with some kind of anchors.
I understand that protects the dam, but below that matting, and I don't know how far that is, 50 feet, 100 feet, with a 2-foot wall of water coming over and washing, isn't that all of a sudden going to start eroding the land just below the matting? And what happens with all of that as you showed on that map of the flooding consequences. Granted, it might not be as disastrous as if the entire dam exploded, but we're still going to have some pretty serious damage down
Yes.
below the high school and everywhere else. And
Yeah, you're going to get that now. If you did nothing, that it would be the same damage.
if you did nothing, it would be the same damage.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
That doesn't make any sense.
But there's concrete under the matting.
The matting will be anchored so that it doesn't erode. It protects, the dam stays in place, and it goes pretty much right to the brook, or close to the brook. There's bedrock there. It might be anchored to the bedrock. It's a detail we haven't worked out.
Okay, but a 2-foot wall of water getting to the brook is pretty dangerous, it seems to me.
It's a lot of water. No, I totally agree.
Thank you. I don't know what else to say at the moment, but thank you.
It's not a wall. That's not an accurate.
I'm not getting this.
So I think that conversation, Mr. Rubin, just confused us because the answer, it seems like you're gonna have the same damage whether you fix the dam or not.
Wait, hold.
You need to explain that.
Yeah, can I just jump in here very quickly? We're trying to prevent the dam from evaporating and getting dissolved during a huge storm. That would be a catastrophic damage to Newton. So we have to protect the dam that's there. And so that is, obviously the trees have an issue, but we have to go with an approach, an engineered approach that's going to keep this dam in place. Yes, there's gonna be water, no matter what we do, there's gonna be water that's gonna go potentially over the dam and it's gonna come down into our neighborhoods. It's not a wall of water. It will start at 1/4 inch and then 1/2 inch and go higher. So we need to protect, and we're required by the state to protect the people of Massachusetts and Newton by keeping a dam from failing. So that's what this whole Office of Dam Safety does across the Commonwealth. There are hundreds of dams across the state. I used to manage dozens of them that have solid, walls of grass on the downstream slope of the dam. And so that they can be monitored by dam safety engineers on a weekly and monthly basis to make sure that nothing is going on. So, we're trying to protect this resource. It was renovated 100 years ago. We're trying to protect it from failure. The Leominster situation is something that we're really terrified about, and we should be. And that's what we've done with these options. They have different prices, they have different impacts, slightly different numbers of trees have to be cut, but in the end, we have to fix this dam. So that's really what we're looking at.
There was no dam failure in Leominster.
Could I?
There was an overtopping.
Yeah, there was an overtop. There was some catastrophic
I
failure.
thought it was all the water coming down from the hills that.
Yes, in the city,
Yeah.
but 15 inches in our watershed, we have a very urban watershed. So 15 inches in this watershed, or a 3-day event, like Lou was talking, a 3-day series of storms back to back, which can certainly happen now. Happened in New Jersey recently, can create this situation at Pulse, no matter what's going on, with upstream. So
Jonathan, what Chair Albright was saying was that the last few comments of Mr. Wooten made it seem like the water aspect, the flooding aspect would be the same, but what you're adding to that is we're trying to protect the failure of the dam.
yeah, that's right.
It's the water.
That's right.
The water's gonna happen, it's gonna spread out, there
Yeah.
will be problems with it, but we also don't want the dam
That's right.
to
Because then
fail at this.
Then all bets are off.
from-
All bets are off at
from-
what happens
Yeah.
downstream
So the
with the high
question is,
school.
which alternative will give us the best dam safety?
That's right. And what are the risks involved with each of those options? And then, and obviously what are the impacts? So, yeah. And that's what GEI has done for dozens of other dams across the state.
We have.
Okay, so yes, I'm gonna, we have a few people that have questions and I'm maybe Ms. Gleaser asked a question. But we do have the DPW budget to get to tonight. I just wanna make us aware that if we can get through with this by 9:15 at the very, very latest, that would be, by 9 would be even better. Councilor Lucas. you
Yeah,
had
I also want to
anything?
say, we also have a Celtics game tonight too, okay?
What time is that?
Now,
Now.
so I certainly respect that. I have a question for the gentleman from the Office of Dam Safety. I think you said earlier that the Arlington Dam was done before you got to ODS. Can you just tell us how long have you been with ODS?
I took over the Office of Dam Safety in 2004. That project was completed right around that time. But I did get out and see it under development and during construction, but I wasn't in the Office of Dam Safety. I was in DCR's dam repair unit.
Okay, thank you. So Councilor Maliki has some slides, which you said she was going to share with everyone, and there are trees on it. And I think you said that for us, we're going to have to remove our trees in option 3. And you said that it is I don't know if it's a best practice, guidelines, or policy that trees cannot go on dams. Is that your own personal preference, or is that a state policy?
That's the Office of Dam Safety policy, and that is also part of our definition of poor condition and unsafe condition dams. That's one of the contributing factors to that conclusion when you conduct an inspection.
Okay, all right. So when was that policy enacted? Was that enacted by you, or was that before Arlington?
That was put in place, I think, during my time. But I think the definitions of poor and unsafe have always been inclusive of being considerate of the tree cover on a dam.
Okay. Is your Arlington Dam safe today?
I don't ever say anything safe or not safe, so I'm not going to answer that question, but thank you for asking.
Well, could we find out? Because, I mean, they have a similar project as ours. If it's not safe, I would like to know if it is safe. You know, I mean, you don't have
If
to.
you want to make a public records request, we'd be glad to provide you the files if you want the latest inspection on that dam. But I'm not prepared to pass judgment on any other dam this evening. I came prepared to discuss Bullows Pond Dam.
Okay, could you give us that latest report from Arlington?
He said he wants it.
I have to ask that you go to, if you do a search, mass.gov space DCR records request, you'll get to our records request website and you can fill out a form. And I think there's also contact information for a guy named Mike who does all of our public records requests. And you can ask, I would just suggest if you want to familiarize yourself with any particular dam, you can request the latest inspection report.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up on Arlington. Do you know if they had to choose from different options and they chose the most expensive, or did they pick the cheapest?
Again, I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay. All right, will that information be available in the public records request?
I'm not taking any more questions on any dam other than Bullows. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but this is, I think, just confusing things for me. I'm trying to work with the city of Newton to make progress, and they've made a lot of progress, but I'm looking forward to crossing the finish line with this dam, and I'd like to stay focused on that.
Okay, all right, and to the best of your knowledge, has Bullows Pond, has it ever overtopped, or has the dam ever been breached?
They said no.
It has.
No. Never.
Okay, and then, I don't know, I think, well, I was asked about the Leominster Dam that Mr. Yo referenced.
Yeah, it's not a dam, it's a city. It's a city.
I'm sorry?
This is city, Leominster's a city. Well, I'm talking about an entire city, got 15 inches of rain, yeah.
They did have it on
Sorry,
the
yeah,
offering of the
sorry,
dam.
yeah, okay, I thought you said it was a dam.
No, it's a whole region, got hit.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, and also, I think we can show, and we've talked to Arlington, we've looked at this issue, we've talked to our colleagues here, and it's a completely different situation that happened a long time ago now at this point. So we can certainly provide that. I think Lou has spoken to some of their officials as well. So we can provide that information, completely different kind of situation than what we're dealing with here.
We did talk to Arlington, and it is important to note that they did remove 150 trees over a 5-inch diameter during their reconstruction.
Okay, all right, well, okay, all right, well, that's all I have for now, thank you, and I'll put any more questions in writing.
Councilor Getz and then Councilor Leary, and then I think hopefully.
Yeah. So, I just had a quick question about the Bowles Pond itself has the capacity to manually operate, there's an operating mechanism to lower the level of the pond?
There is.
Okay, so is there any possibility of automating that and being able to, release a volume of water out of the pond before an event?
There possibly, we would have to investigate that. I'm not a dam engineer, but also it doesn't address the problem of the dams the trees on the dam that are creating an issue with the structure of the dam.
It's a great question. It doesn't, hold on a second, it's a great question, but it doesn't impact the dam safety order or the policy of trees on dams. But also, I think Lou, you can answer this, because we've talked about this, and the outlet.
Yeah.
In such a huge event as what we're modeling here and potentially expecting, whether you're releasing a little bit of water a day early or 2 days early when you see it, maybe heading this way, is gonna have a very, very tiny impact on what then happens during the storm when all the water comes down the watershed and up into the pond. So whether you've brought the dam down an inch or two during that time period, in the end, is not gonna help you that great. I don't know, Lou, if you wanted to jump in.
That's correct, yeah.
No, I'm just more interested in, because I sort of see this as, we were talking very specifically about how large this watershed is. And I sort of see this as, okay, let's spread the water as quickly as we can so that then it doesn't impact the dam, in terms of the force of all of that water hitting the dam. And I'm just, trying to be proactive or, thinking of it, if in fact we have some sort of, capability to do something, in a preemptive way. And I didn't know if that was something that we could do potentially.
Yeah, Lou, I don't know if you want to jump in here.
Yes, that's certainly doable. The idea is, if you know the storm's coming, if we know the hurricane's coming, yes, we open up the low level outlets. That drops the reservoir level. So that's an interim means by lowering the water in Bullo's Pond so that when the storm comes, Bullo's Pond will then fill up again. But it's not the magic bullet. It's not the end all be all. It's just one means of lowering the pond level before the storm comes so that you have a little bit of capacity. They're not knowing how much storm we're going to get. So that's certainly doable. Yeah. And we're looking at, in the rehabilitation, we are looking at automating that now that we can, you can use your cell phone, to operate your heating system when you're in Europe. Yeah. Okay, great. But so we're looking at, some sort of automation for that process.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
we're going to look at that in final design.
That would be wonderful. And then lastly, Mr. Solomon, you had mentioned that in early February, the 8th, you issued a letter to the city asking for the community response. This is not to you, Mr. Tavarna, it's to Mr. Solomon. I'm curious, I'd like to see that letter, and I'd like to see how the city is going
I believe
to.
I attached it to the agenda.
Oh,
It's sent it as backup.
Oh, okay, great. And I'm just wondering, I didn't see it. So
That went to the mayor's office. It went to Jonathan and Shauna also.
Yes.
Okay, so
I
but is there,
provided
is
it
there
back
gonna
up
be
to
a,
this
will there
meeting
be
tonight.
a public, community meeting? How are we going to address that? The community
Well,
response?
our hope was our response would be to pass a plan to move forward.
Oh, I'm
So
thinking.
that's, and that's what we're,
Okay.
To get to the final design and submit it, that's what I believe the Office of Dam Safety is
Yeah.
looking
I
for.
was-
they're waiting for us to.
Our response to
All
Harbor
right,
Green
right,
Safety.
well,
Yeah, I don't think anyone's late. I know it takes time to contemplate these things. I just wanted to let people know that was out there.
Okay, I misinterpreted what community response is. I think of it as asking the community.
And
What means asking the dam?
Okay,
it's us.
Got it.
okay, Councilor Leary, do you have a quick question?
No, just, this discussion has been very interesting for me, and I was, you know, I know that dam removal has been done around the state. And I realized there's a lot I don't know about it. They're actually considering it for the dam in the Charles River as well. And was that seriously looked at, in terms of, would it mitigate flooding? Would restoring the old, I know it's kind of out there, but I'm just being creative here and trying to think about why was it not considered here?
Well, guys, if I can jump in, we did consider that early on, but again,
That's
the problem is you no longer have a pond.
skate on it anymore.
That's people who live there might have a thing to
They
say.
have bigger lawn.
Yeah, very big.
Well, I'm just throwing it out there.
Just trying to refine it.
Sorry, go ahead.
So the analogy, you're talking about like the Watertown Dam on the Charles River. A lot of discussion to remove the Watertown Dam.
Yeah,
The Charles River, you don't need it anymore. If and when it's ever removed, the Charles River stays. You still have the Charles River. But if you remove the Bullows Pond Dam, you no longer have Bullows Pond. It becomes a brook. So we as a whole rejected. Well, we dismissed that early on as a non-starter, knowing that the Bullows Pond Association would like to keep the pond. So that was kind of rejected early on.
Trees of the pond. I think the whole city.
There's also flooding.
I'm just curious.
I know you are, but
I know it would be a huge issue, a lot of discussion, bigger than this.
Yeah, there's many places where that makes total sense. I think in this case, certainly there would be flooding impacts as well if we didn't have a dam. And we're in a very urban, downstream is a very urban watershed from here to the Charles River. So it not only do we no longer have the beautiful pond, but we have then we'd have to then deal with Mother Nature and what she's sending downstream through the middle of Newville. So without any dam to hold back water.
Right,
Yeah.
so I'm just asking, the dam creates safety from flooding.
Yes. Yeah, and we're trying to make the dam self-safe.
Because sometimes it works the other way around.
That's right.
Conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, I see we've been joined by Councilor Nickley, who has a question. Councilor Nickley? a
Yeah,
quick question?
thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Could we model out the damage for overtopping, not a breach, just overtopping at a few different scenarios, 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, so that we could understand what risk we're exposed to, regardless of whether we improve this dam or not?
Why model that if it could happen anyway, and what we're trying to do is prevent the catastrophic failure of the dam?
So sorry, that was a question for Mr. Lee Wooden, and the request is because
Technically, yes, you could, and it could be part of a planning for just normal, the range of flooding that the area might experience. Didn't go there too much just because it didn't change the fixes that we're planning for the dam.
Yeah, I guess for me, why it's still valuable information is if we can have the damage, the risk that we're exposed to in those scenarios, and then compare that to the modeling that you've done, we can sort of see the relative difference between just the 2 feet of overflowing and the breach. Because it'd be good to know what risk we're exposed to anyways, regardless of what the state requires of us or not.
Councilor Nickley, you may have missed the beginning part of the meeting where we learned that the flooding would involve 3 feet of damage closest to the dam and 1 foot of flooding as you get to the turnpike. So
Sorry. No, yeah, no,
property, 3 feet, 2 feet, and 1 feet of water in their front and backyards as you go down towards the turnpike.
yeah, no, I was there. I was there for that part of the meeting. I understand that. The question is specific of what damage will we have for the overtopping, just the overtopping at different amounts of overtopping.
Yeah, no, it's a valid question. It is what's called an incremental, looking at the incremental damage because of a breach. You've got some areas that are going to be flooded anyway, and if the dam fails, it grows. And what is that difference? It's a valid question.
Yep,
Hey,
thank
Lee,
you.
Lee, I'm wondering if for that baseline flooding, to give the community an idea of that, could they refer to the flood insurance rate maps that are out there to get an idea of what would happen?
You could. It wouldn't be exactly the same 100-year storm that we plugged in. It's whatever FEMA has, but the 100-year flood maps that you can get online from FEMA gives you a rough idea of what that would look like.
Okay, maybe someone could help by finding those for us. Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
yeah, I'm not sure if they've recently mapped this area, but yes.
So I'd like to give Ms. Greaser a chance to ask a question, if that's okay with everyone.
Oh, thank you so much. My question is for Mr. Saloma.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Saloma, I'm on the board of the Bullis Pond Association. I'm also a property owner downstream of the dam, within a half a mile. And I'm also on the Bullis Pond Dam Working Group. And I was wondering, do you happen to know the location where recorded floods from Laundry Brook have originated? Where the flooding originated?
Where the flooding originated?
Mm-hmm.
You mean what's the flow path into the pond?
Nope, I mean downstream of the pond and the dam, where did flooding emerge, initiate, become noticeable?
You mean under what storm event?
Yeah, there were storm events in the past. There was major flooding in the early 1990s. There's been flooding in
Well,
Newtonville.
we haven't tracked anything specifically like that. If that's what you're asking, generally, I think in small streams, you need to model different events.
So there is a record, there's plenty of records in Newton of where the flooding originated. And interestingly enough, it never originated at the dam or in the Laundry Brook forest immediately downstream of the dam. In all cases, flooding emerged where the Laundry Brook is undergrounded at Hull Street. And according to photos we've seen of those times that have been documented, the way the floods began was the stream was prevented from going into the undergrounding pipe at Hull Street because of a grate over that pipe. And in times when the pond was silted up and there was lots of eutrophication and duckweed emerged on the surface, the duckweed would be swept through the spillway, down Laundry Brook, underneath Walnut Street, through the culvert, and when it got to the grate over the pipe, it formed a carpet over the grate. And the water couldn't get through that carpet. And then it poured down Hull Street, it went on to the Newton North tennis courts, went down Walnut Street and Cabot Street, basically following its underground route, as you would expect. And that grate, I think it's very likely that the same thing would happen to that grate if the sod on the concrete blocks was swept away. And we were told in previous meetings of the working group that it was designed that way, that the grass sod on top of these articulated concrete blocks would be swept downstream. Well, it would land on that grate and do exactly the same thing. I think that, I know that the downstream grate is not part of the dam, but since we're talking about preventing catastrophic flooding, I don't understand why the dam order doesn't include something about addressing the undergrounding of that stream. that's where the real flood problem emerges.
I'm not at all knowledgeable about that, but it sounds interesting. I do not know.
I think it's explained by Commissioner.
Well, I was asking him, thanks.
Can I just offer an observation to try to help us frame the discussion?
Yeah.
So, seems to me we ought to hold the item, we're not gonna resolve it tonight. Just greatly appreciate the folks from DCR coming, who've been giving us a tremendous amount of information, we're very appreciative of that. It seems to me that we have to think through whether we're satisfied with any one of these three alternatives, we may or may not be, it's our decision. And if we are, which one we want to go with. And I think the concern that was just raised about soil eroding from this site should be part of our analysis. May not be a deciding factor for one or more of us, but should be part of our analysis. And I'd like to see when this comes back to us from Mr. Taverna and our experts, that is included in the discussion. And I also personally need more assurance as to which approach is really gonna make sure that we have a solid dam itself, understanding, and I do understand what the folks at the state are saying about the need, like it or not, to remove trees and other vegetation so that you don't impair the integrity of the dam itself. And I'll leave it at that, but I'll move to hold the item.
Okay, but before we vote, I do want to thank Mr. Saloma, Mr. Lowell, and Mr. Roulette for being part of our conversation for the last 2 hours. I think you've been very helpful to have you be here and let us ask you these questions has been extremely helpful.
And Mr. Wooten too.
And Mr. Wooten as well, of course, but you're part of our team in a way. These other folks from Dam Safety, they're extra, and we really, really appreciate your being here tonight.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to meet with you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Hopefully we can come to a conclusion in.
I'm not sure they wanna come back though.
I know.
That's why I have my hand up. I mean, I understand that you want to do a soil type of analysis, but if there's other questions for these experts, let's ask them now. I mean, I think they've been quite clear that any one of these three options are going to be satisfactory. But if you want to dig in more, let's do that and get it done.
Well, I think we're out of questions here. Do you have any more questions, Councilor Kalis?
No, I don't. I'm ready to vote.
Okay,
But
well.
to approve something.
We moved to hold. I believe Commissioners
I
Sullivan.
did want to add that I'm happy to forward any questions that you may come up with after the meeting and get the answers.
Yeah.
We wrote down several that you raised here.
Yeah.
If you have more, let us know.
So the grade has become an issue. You'll get that. back.
We stationed someone there every storm to clear the grade,
Okay,
every storm.
okay. And I don't know if you're gonna ask for the records request.
Yeah, we're
Yeah, you'll do that. Okay. So I think we're ready to vote. And Commissioner Sullivan, will you be having another Bowler's Pond Bowler's Pond Working Group meeting?
Sure.
Because then we can.
I will have Terry work on getting a date for that.
Okay, good.
Right, that's
Probably, because we said we'd
For
get back
everyone,
together
yes.
again. We should do that before we bring it.
I think we were hoping to have a direction.
Okay, good. Okay, so, President Laredo has moved hold. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you very much. Thanks to you folks from Dam Safety. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a good rest of the night.
Yes.
You too.
You're on the hot seat.
Oh, I get to go right there?
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Join us at the table.
You just let me think that.
He didn't tell you that when he told you all about the front of the
You'll have your maps to the PowerPoint, are you okay with that?
I know.
Oh, I'm teasing.
Oh,
You want to
no.
speak to the side?
I'll scooch to the
Yeah,
side.
sit next to.
It'll be odd to conduct from there.
Either one of these guys is jumping.
And just
It'll
for
help
the
you out.
record, for the record, Commissioner, would you also tell us who you have to do?
Want me to introduce myself?
Yeah.
Commissioner Shauna Sullivan, Department of Public Works. I have with me Bernie McDonald, the Deputy Commissioner, and Director of Utilities, Tom Fitzgerald. I would love to give a presentation, if that's okay with
Thank
everyone.
you very much, sorry it's so late.
So I'd like to present the DPW budget for the coming fiscal year and review our highlights from the last year. The total budget proposal for FY '26 for the Department of Public Works is $106,932,209 million, which is a 4.18% increase over FY '25. The total proposed personnel of 199 employees, 188 full-time employees, and 11 part-time employees. We currently have 42 vacancies due to our recent promotions and retirements. We are actively working to fill these vacancies. Those include the design manager, our chief of survey. We have, I think, probably had about 20 resignations in the past 8 months, or promotions. Yes. So, we skipped my slide on the introduction of the team, but that's okay. So we have a couple of new promotions and a new employee in the Director of Streets. Alfredo Vargas was previously our design manager. He is now our city engineer. He comes with a wealth of experience. And we have a returning employee who was our superintendent of streets, Mike Arpino. He worked for the city for a number of years before leaving to go to Haverhill to become the director of DPW. We were lucky to get him back as director of streets. He's wonderful, very knowledgeable. And I also want to recognize all the contributions of our team. Everybody does a great job and works very hard and is dedicated to the city and the residents. We'll start with our streets and sidewalks. The streets division is responsible for roadway, sidewalk, and curb maintenance, as well as winter storm response. Streets and engineering divisions and our consultants continue to work together to accelerate our sidewalk and road improvement program. Our new asphalt recycler is up and running. It allows us to recycle asphalt from contractors and city roadway projects. I had a question from Councilor Downs regarding whether residents could drop off asphalt for us to recycle. I think we would be happy to take that. If you're repaving a driveway or, removing impervious surface in a yard, happy to have that material. It needs to be asphalt, however. It is a cost-effective and more environmentally friendly option as it reuses materials and reduces carbon emissions, as we do not need to go to the asphalt plant every day. It also gets the crews out much earlier to fill potholes and address sidewalk repairs that are asphalt. Our streets crews will continue to focus on sidewalk ramp repairs and minor temporary street repairs in the upcoming year to improve our transportation network. This upcoming fiscal year, we will be implementing a new storm routing application to improve our snow and ice clearing efficiency. I'm very excited about this. We piloted it, it works good. The transportation division is responsible for traffic calming, streetlights and traffic signals, parking meter maintenance and collection, all signage throughout the city, and pavement markings, along with providing transportation-related engineering oversight on city projects and state projects like Combat Carriageway. The transportation division also collects data, conducts technical analysis, and implements traffic calming projects and pilots to ensure that projects improve safety and function well. We are implementing a number of new traffic calming improvements in FY '26, including the Elliott Street corridor, Waverly Avenue at Franklin Street, Brookline Street at Hartman Road, and California Street at Chapel Street.
The Transportation Division is replacing the city's gas line fixtures with solar-powered LED streetlights while preserving the historic look of the gas lamp and increasing pedestrian lighting in the low-lit areas. We'll be going to the historic district in the next few months to get approval. We are working on refining our inventory of pavement markings to better track the condition of all pavement markings and to improve the prioritization and maintenance plans for these pavement markings. The division will continue to work closely with Traffic Council to review proposed parking changes, refine parking regulations, and develop policy to increase safety throughout the city. Sustainable Materials Management Division, which is responsible for the curbside collection of residential and municipal waste, recycling and yard waste, along with operating the Rumford Avenue Recovery Center, where they do household hazardous collection, paint collection, they run a book shed and a swap shop. We will continue to provide excellent collection services and ensure that service is efficient and meets resident expectations through data tracking with GPS software and 311 reports for missed pickups. We have a new 5-year waste and recycling collection contract with Waste Management beginning July 1st, 2026. This is the 4th year that the division is collecting yard waste in-house. We have developed route optimization maps and will be piloting a new routing app for yard waste this upcoming fiscal year. The division will continue recycling education and inspection of curbside recycling carts in an effort to remain under our 10% contamination as required by our disposal contracts. We will also be completing a project to assess local recycling markets, to identify opportunities to improve the Resource Recovery Center, to evaluate collection services and current policies for improvement. We'll also be focusing on increased diversion of organic from the waste stream to increase environmental sustainability and decrease the costs. To obtain this goal, we will be promoting our curbside organics partnership and drop-off collection with our preferred vendor through social media campaigns, citywide mailings, and free starter kits. The mayor's office will be docketing a funding request for a second trailer at the Resource Recovery Center. The trailer will provide the needed space, lockers, and restrooms to move our superintendent of sustainable materials and the yard waste crew to Rumford Avenue. They're currently housed at the stable Craft Street. This will improve oversight, communications, and efficiencies in the division. In addition, there's a request for funds to address a shortfall in the current waste management contract as a result of prevailing wage for FY25. The Labor Standards Division released the prevailing wage for fiscal year 25 in February. Therefore, we need to pay the wage difference between the 24 and 25 rates for FY25. The Transportation Network Improvement Program funding, I'm not going to dive too deep in this because we had this presentation 2 weeks ago. But we are expecting to pave 152 streets this year with our $9.5 million in annual funding carried forward from the previous fiscal year and additional ARPA funds for the neighborhood roadways for a total of $16,496,000. We will continue with our road preservation through our crack sealing and fog sealing program, along with other pavement preservation treatment process such as bonded wearing course. We will be doing Homer Street and the bonded wearing course from Walnut Street to Center Street this year. Working with our consultant, we have developed a citywide sidewalk and ADA ramp condition analysis in 2022, and we are currently updating for the Walk, Ride, Roll program to ensure that that's a successful transition for both planning and DPW. Paving and sidewalk contractors, along with our streets team, will be repairing and replacing sidewalks throughout the city, including areas around the Underwood and Warren schools and the Hampton Street through the Complete Streets funding grant that we received. The Engineering Division is responsible for design of city projects and provides construction oversight for both municipal projects and private property construction inspection as it relates to stormwater control, utility installations, and sidewalk installations. In FY26, Engineering Division will continue to manage and provide oversight to construction projects like the Transportation Network Improvement Program, the Commonwealth Avenue Carriageway Project, the Commonwealth Avenue Bridge project on Route 30 between Weston and Newton, Needham Street, the Newton Center parking lot, the raised intersection projects, and our water main installations. Engineering will continue its work with Transportation Division on design for traffic calming project, bike lanes, sidewalks, ADA ramps, and intersection improvements. In addition, the Engineering Division will do work with our consulting engineer to get the final design and begin rehabilitation of the Bowles Pond Dam, hopefully. Our Fleet Division is responsible for purchasing and maintaining the city's fleet of vehicles, except for the fire departments. This year, the division will continue to focus on preventive repairs and maintenance to keep the city vehicles in good working order. Fleet also continues to investigate opportunities to provide environmentally friendly electric and alternative fueled vehicles by evaluating options for our larger equipment, including sweepers, loaders, and medium to large trucks. The city has replaced 100% of its non-emergency sedan fleet to electric. The non-emergency sedan fleet has 31 EVs, along with an SUV fleet consisting of 18 plug-in hybrids. Our superintendents drive those, the deputy commissioner, and myself. I believe, Tom, do you have a plug-in hybrid?
Just a regular hybrid.
Regular hybrid. So he is one of our 20 hybrid vehicles that use gas but do generate electric power. We've added 11 EV charging stations to Elliott Street, DPW yard, to support our plug-in hybrid fleet. Fleet continues to work with public buildings to obtain grant funds to add level 3 chargers for the transition to fully electric trucks and equipment. Fleet will be opening the completely rehabilitated wash facility for all city vehicles and equipment. This will ensure compliance with stormwater regulations and help remove corrosive materials from our vehicles and equipment.
Does not include the city councilor, sorry.
Finance and Administration. Our Finance and Administration Division is responsible for customer service, water billing, DPW payroll, and DPW accounts payable and receivable. In FY26, the Customer Service Division is working to improve the navigation for residents using the city's new 311 software application by renaming request services for a more user-friendly experience. The water billing team continues to provide excellent customer service to residents with questions regarding estimated water bills and meter change-outs. The finance team is participating in ongoing accounting training to improve their efficiency and skill set. DPW water. May need Tom's help on this one. The Water Division is responsible for all city water infrastructure, including water mains, water pump stations, water quality, and fire hydrants. We are at almost 94% completion of the water meter replacement project. We will continue to promote the new customer portal, which allows customers to monitor their water usage and set alerts for abnormal excessive usage. It'd be helpful if councilors would promote the customer portal in their newsletters and or listserv. We have, I think it's 1,140 people that have signed up. We need that number to be about 25,000.
Do you have something that you could send around?
We are going to do a bill insert. We will redo it in the mayor's newsletter a couple of more times. We are promoting it. We hand it out with every meter change out. We just aren't getting people to sign up.
Because last time we asked if you would send us a blurb, we would include it
You
in our
did.
newsletter. Oh, so you did, okay, perfect.
We'll
Yes,
do it again.
Do it again.
I'll do it again.
But you can't
Thank
sign
you.
up, Shauna, until you get a bill, you can't sign up.
It takes a little bit to sign
But
up.
we're pretty much there, well, close to being there now with all the meter.
I would say we're there with the 94%,
Yeah.
I believe. It's going to be the lagging 6% that can't sign up right away.
You do need a new meter to sign up.
Yes,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
do need
Can't do it with
it.
an old meter.
You have to.
If you could send us something that says, click here to.
Yes, I
sign up.
will.
Get a new meter and then click here.
Don't
The
you
what, you need your bill.
You need your account number.
You need the account number to
Yeah,
need
it's,
the
you
bill.
can't just sign up without your
No.
account number.
The Water Division is continuing with the unidirectional flushing program, which removes iron deposits within the water system and verifies proper water valve operation. In addition, the division continues to enhance our hydrant flushing program to ensure excellent water quality properly functioning valves and fire hydrants. We're continuing with the water main cleaning, relining, and replacement program. We will be able to provide the list during the next water sewer stormwater rate presentation. Did I miss anything, Tom?
Nope.
DPW sewer, the sewer division is responsible for all city sewer infrastructure such as sewer mains and sewer pump stations. We anticipate the 3 phases of Area 9 will take up to 2 years to complete construction, as it includes a number of repairs and replacement in challenging conditions. The expectation is that we will begin Area 10 construction as soon as Area 9 is complete. Is Area 10 is designed, Tom?
It's investigated.
It's investigated. Next step will be design.
Next phase will be design 9B.
The sewer division will continue with pump station rehabilitation and the illicit discharge detection elimination program as required through our MS4 permit. Stormwater. The stormwater division is responsible for city drains, stream and culvert maintenance, and complying with the NIPD's MS4 permit. The division will continue to monitor water quality at Crystal Lake and treat as necessary. Construction of the Union Street Drain Project is complete except for the final paving. We are preparing to submit a request for an alternate schedule with the EPA for the phosphorus reduction requirements. We're also in the process of identifying phosphorus reduction project for design this year. We have enhanced the catch basin cleaning program to clean and inspect all cities' catch basins in a 1-year period. We have a new line item in the stormwater budget to continue with culvert and stream cleaning to provide flood mitigation in the area of streams and culverts. I'm happy to take questions and discuss them.
Can I just, before questions, something that I just heard recently, the amount of unallocated water, the percentage has gone so far down.
It is in my slide presentation.
I don't know if you said it or
I'm
not.
sorry, yep, it's unaccounted for water loss dropped from 24% in 2023 to 17% in 2024.
That's good reduction.
It's a good
Yeah,
reduction.
It may,
May
we think a
go
lot of this
further.
has to do with the meter program and a meter replacement program. And the fact that we did find, I don't know, what was the quantity, Shauna, Tom, how many irrigation?
Oh, the irrigation meters.
Irrigation meters were not actually being read.
The unregistered.
So quite a few. So people are now fully paying for the water they're consuming from the city, that we're paying MWRA for. So it is going down. We hope it's gonna go down even further.
Expect it
And
should go
because
down
we
a
are
little bit
doing a
more.
good job dealing with leakage.
Was the
Yes.
payment retroactive to the?
Yes, to installation because we can see the irrigation meter and the amount of water that passed through it.
And yeah,
And
there
we
was a
do-
meter reading, so.
We do a spread over, obviously.
Challenging.
Okay, questions, Council President Moreno.
So thank you very much, Commissioner. A number of questions. The mayor's allocated or stated she's gonna allocate some $4 million of free cash for roads.
Yes.
Is that included in your number?
It is part of the FY26 paving budget, part of the 9.5 billion, yes.
So, the budget for, let me understand better. How much is budgeted for, in the budget for paving in 2026?
So the 4.5, the 2.
Leaving aside the free cash allocation, what's the budgeted allocation?
The override funding, which is about 1.3 million, the 2.3 for chapter 90, the 500,000 for the fair share. I believe that is what is currently in there.
And then there's a rollover from unspent funds this year. Isn't that like about 4 or 5 million that wasn't spent yet?
So I do have a contract out right now, the bid opening, I believe is May 10th. That's a $5 million paving contract that those funds will.
So those funds will be allocated, the extra 4 million brings you up to the 9.
No.
In fiscal 2025, how much was in your budget for paving?
I rolled over, so it is the combined 16 million
I guess I'm trying to find out if we are truly budgeting $9 million a year for roads, or if our budget is really 3 or 4 million and we're making up with it for free cash.
We are truly, yes, part of it is free cash every year.
So that's not part of the budget though,
That's correct, yeah, and that's been the case
So
the entire
Mr. Joe,
time.
maybe you
Yeah.
can, the question's better directed at
Yeah.
you. Over the last 4 or 5 years, each year, how much have we budgeted for roads?
So, not including chapter 90,
Not including chapter 90, but state
and
money.
there, we have funds, and then we have the override funds, which was from the 2013 override, which is part of our budget now, which is now up to 1.3.
It's
now.
about
All right, that's part of our budget.
That's
So
part of our
what else?
budget. In addition, there are a series of funds for traffic calming, for
Streets work,
street work that we're doing.
that's about $1 million.
Yeah.
So if I can ask, why in the budget itself, since we know we need to spend $9-10 million a year minimum,
Yeah.
why aren't we budgeting that?
Because we don't have that money.
Well, we haven't budgeted.
We haven't had the money the entire time.
So
yeah.
you're, in other words, to reach the 9 million.
It's gone to other schools, excuse me, other departments.
Free cash is used to bridge
We
that
just-
gap.
Yeah, free cash,
We make budget decisions every year. One of the
Yeah.
budget decisions is to fund the roads at a much lower level with the anticipation to use free cash for that, right?
that is correct, and
Okay,
that's
that's
been
an
the case the
ongoing
entire time.
expense every single year, right?
Yeah, and what we've done consistently is try where we can, add 100,000, 200,000 to individual items in the DPW budget. I mean, this year, the challenge, the big increase in the DPW budget, if you really look at the budget, is the new solid waste contract. It's what, $900,000 increase. So,
Every year we use free cash
that's right.
to fund our ongoing roads work, which we know is
Yeah.
an ongoing expense, just
Well,
like.
no,
snow
it's a
and ice.
choice we make whether to pave roads or not. So, those
I'm not
are,
gonna
those are
belabor
not,
the
they're not
argument.
FTEs, Mark.
let me-
I do wanna let you know that it is a benefit to have the free cash available in the spring for DPW, because we can contract that.
Well, if you have, if you have the budget earlier in the year, you could contract it any time during the year.
Maybe the next mayor will just.
We're gonna leave that aside. Can I just ask you a couple other questions? Newton Center parking lot, what's the cost of doing that work?
It's 1.1 million is the estimated cost.
1.1 million for Newton Center parking lot, and of that, how much is for the mayor's project for her?
None of it, that's just the curving, we had to regrade the entire parking lot.
So we were
There's a
gonna do that
significant
parking
project.
lot irrespective of the
Yes,
mayor's project?
it needs to be done, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And that is for, and, how much is the mayor's project costing us in addition to that?
Oh, I
John,
think
do you know
we had
about
ARPA
a sense?
for 100 or 200,000, I can look it up, yeah.
Is there gonna be any
It's
more
a
money that's spent from
planning-
DPW beyond that?
Not right now, that's
Not right
not in the plan. No.
Fleet, I wanna understand just a little bit, are you comfortable that your schedule for replacement of vehicles is in, I'm not gonna say a perfect place, but a good place so that you're in the right cycle?
It's in a good enough place right now, however, the carbon initiative will have an impact on us, a significant impact.
And how so?
The vehicles will cost probably close to twice as much, they're unavailable right now to meet our needs. We don't have level 3 chargers to even support heavy equipment at
Yeah.
level 3.
So Sean, it might be helpful just to explain that Massachusetts signed on with California into this higher requirement for heavy equipment. And so we've been extremely concerned, it's all great, but we don't have that level 3 chargers and the equipment doesn't, the vehicles don't exist yet essentially. So Massachusetts, led by MMA and other groups, have petitioned the state to at least delay the implementation of
They did
this.
delay it till 2027.
Yeah, so it has been delayed by a year.
One year delay in state law that requires us to implement with equipment that doesn't exist and chargers that we can't afford.
Well,
Usual stuff.
It's not that we can't afford the chargers,
They're not available?
they're not available at this time for us to even install.
And so that's potentially, if we don't get some, leaving that aside, are you comfortable with the level of fleet replacement in the schedule?
Yes.
I'll, just one other question. Has the department thought at all about going to some kind of email system for billing? So that rather than send me a piece of paper, which I then have to go to my computer and figure out how I'm gonna then pay the city my water bill or whatever, just send me an email with that?
Love to be able to do that, so yes, we could certainly investigate that, you know, how feasible it is.
I think it would have to be an opt-in.
Well, I would, no, I understand that, but, you know, all the most companies now, your utilities and others allow you to opt in for kind of an automated billing,
We
and
can
it
talk
does
to the
save us
treasurer.
money.
We can talk to the
Ron
treasurer.
Mendez about
Because I
those
think it-
policies. There are certain policies about, I'm not,
There might be
don't quote me on this,
municipal
but there are some rules about mailing of bills, but I've certainly wondered this in the past, and I think Ron is really the expert on this, so.
If you could look into that, might be a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, I would opt in, but.
Take the price of the postage
That's
off.
what it
Yeah.
is. All right, thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilor Leary. A lot of good stuff in this budget, Shauna, and regarding the solid waste contract, even though it is an increase, it's a smaller increase
It's a
than we
much
thought.
smaller
Like it's an
increase than-
8% increase, is that right? About 8% more?
It is about 8% for the first year, but it drops significantly as we go through to, I think, 5 and 3s.
Okay.
Yeah, just to
The
go back, just so
RFP
everyone realizes,
really
the
helped us.
city had not gone out to bid on this contract in, we think, decades.
That
Since,
is true.
maybe ever
20
since
years.
it was first outsourced, so.
Yeah.
The pricing that we got, because we went through this, led by Juanita Traber, was really saved us significant money, even though it is still a costly increase.
It was significant. I believe I shared when we talked about solid waste about the pricing we requested in 2023 from Waste Management. It was, I believe, 17% versus the 8% for the first year of the contract, so.
Right.
It really paid off to do that request for proposals.
We did talk in more detail about this already, but I just wanted to mention it, because even though it is a higher part, significant
It
increase,
is
it's still less than.
still much less than what it could have been.
And, you know, and during the mayor's remarks last night, one of the things she talked about was ways to cut costs. And there were a few things that came up, and one of them was possibly reducing pickup of recycling to every other week or something to that effect. I know there's been other discussions too. There are a few places, you know, to reduce costs, and we've used that mostly on our roads. As you said, it's really easy to just not pave a road and save that money. Of course, we pay for it in the long
We pay
run.
for it in the end.
But when we're stretched thin, anyway, I just wanted to raise that because I do think there are some options in our DPW budget to think creatively about what we could do in the longer term, obviously.
So
We have to be a plan for, if that would even happen.
You're aware that we've hired a consultant to look at different options for us.
Yes.
And we are expecting a report this year.
That's the
And that we'll
report that
bring
you're.
to committee.
Was that the report that you're talking about in December 2025? Or was that a different report?
No, I believe it was this one.
It's this one you're talking about?
Yes, we're in the middle of the report with the work with the consultant right now.
Because it said, I was a little confused about it, because I know there's been other reports. The sustainable material management plan that was started in September 24 it says completed in December 2025.
That was the sustainable materials. We have not completed. We've hired the consultant. They are working on the report.
And this is a report specifically, is it focusing on materials management or?
It is on materials management.
Okay, and it includes ways of reducing costs?
It does include ways of reducing cost and running a more efficient operation. They've already looked at the resource recovery center and made suggestions to make it safer and more efficient.
That's great, okay, I look forward to that report. My other question around the phosphorus reduction program, that obviously we all learned and we've known that that's a huge cost that we're not gonna even complete it. We're not gonna be able to come up with that kind of money. It's another one of those things, you gotta do it, but we're not giving any money for it. But we do have a lot of, for me, it always seemed like that would be a natural kind of public-private partnership in terms of reduction of phosphorus, because there are so many commercial businesses along the Charles River.
So I think it's called the RDA, over 1 acre, that
Yes,
will
that's-
significantly help us.
Did that actually get implemented?
It's still in discussion.
It's still, okay, I was wondering about
But
that.
that would
That's really the only
really
way that we're gonna be
be
able
one
to.
of the only ways that we can get there, and our sweeping credits, if the EPA will recognize them.
Okay, but so you're still in discussion with
With the EPA,
the
yes.
1 acre?
Yeah, oh yeah, the RDA, yes.
Okay, and then finally, just kind of award one thing, Farlow Park, one of the, probably
Yes.
the most beautiful park in the city, I think. No, not to be biased or anything, it's certainly the oldest. The lights that line that, because you were talking about replacing LED lights.
Replacing gas
I mean,
lamps
gas
with
lights.
LED lights.
With LED lights, yes. There's a couple of really harsh lights in that park that don't, that I think reduce the.
They're inside the park?
Yeah, inside the park.
All right, well, let's,
To be honest, I didn't check.
I'll check out the lighting and talk with Parks and Rec.
yeah, let's talk to
You
Louise
see,
about
there's
it.
like a really bright, there's a couple of lights that are just very, very bright and orange colored, and they take away from the rest of the lights. It's like someone fixed and put a different light in. To be honest with you, haven't checked recently, but I remember last time I walked there in the dark, that was the case. And then the one other thing was, we did have an issue with a lot of lights along Newton Corner being out, the street lights. And that did
They
get
did get
finally
them.
resolved, but there were like 50 of them that were out. It was like a large number of them. We have one of our residents walks his stuff regularly around there, and he was reporting. I did report some of them, and I think they did get caught up with, but I was wondering if there were problems with electricity to the poles or something going on.
Don't
there.
know the story, I can find out for you, and I can also let you know that our part-time person, Mike Jassett, who does our sidewalk inventory, our ramp
Yeah.
inventory, I can have him
At the same
check
time,
the
we'll
lights
do that.
as well. He comes in very early, so we will
Oh,
see them if
okay.
they're out.
Okay, those are my questions for now. Thank you very much. Counselor Danbury.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for a great presentation. This is
Thank you.
always my favorite budget presentation. There's so much neat and good stuff in it.
Big budget.
You mentioned ARPA funds. When do the ARPA funds run out?
So we have until December 26th to spend them.
Okay,
They are all encumbered, however.
okay. How
Living
much do we
contract.
have left that is encumbered but
There-
not spent?
That's what's funding the contracts for this year.
Okay, okay. Of the 27,000 potholes, thank
Put in
you.
your street and we're gonna fix it.
Yeah, thank you for doing 27,000. I've always wondered, what percentage, more or less, are found by DPW? And how much do we rely on that 311 to learn of potholes?
We do rely on 311, we obviously fix them when we come across them. The people do
Do more than come in on-
religiously report the potholes.
So more of the 27,000 come in through 311
I would
than
say so,
from-
yes.
Yeah, although
okay,
yes.
I've seen the data like a year or two ago, and I was surprised how many actually are from the city. So it's a sizable number are inputted by city staff.
So Mike Jassett.
Yeah.
Inputs thousands.
Right.
For us,
Yeah.
as he just puts them right into the 311.
I just call them in when I see them
When
in
he
the
sees them,
car.
he puts them in
We put them
311.
in, yeah, we encourage all of,
Yeah.
the DPW employees to use
It's
the
about-
311 to
It's
report.
about 70% are done through 311.
Say it again?
70%.
But some of those are
70%.
staffed at
Some of them.
311.
And then the other ones
Definitely.
are found while we're out in
Yeah.
those areas. we
Okay,
encourage
that's very good to know, because when I get out to, the public, I always mention,
Encourage.
encouraging people to use the 311.
It helps us track the
Um,
data too.
In the use of the customer portals,
Mhm.
I know that it's always good, and we require people to have their address, and we can't do a click here to sign up, because we require
We need the bill number.
our bill number. Why do we need the bill number? Why can't our computer system, if I give my name and address, pull up that bill number? Is there?
It's a software limitation, that's how that works. It's our Munis and our Note too.
So
Also-
is it
also,
fixable or?
Well, and just think about this for so you don't want to be able to do that have somebody do that on your account.
Yes.
So you're the only one who actually, unless somebody steals your mail, obviously,
Right.
you're the only one who has your account number.
Yeah, I
Well,
could plug in.
you might be able to look it up online. but-
What would be the downside to your doing it for me?
And have all your data, you wouldn't get it.
Want to get back at your neighbors, so you put it.
Well, I don't know.
You wouldn't get the data then.
Like, we can't even see your password. We can send you
Yeah.
a password request, so we can't see one side of it, you can't see our side of it, so.
Is there gonna be something on the bill that reminds people to do this?
Oh, we're gonna send out a bill insert
Okay,
to
good,
remind everyone to sign up.
okay, good. Double pole replacement. I've noticed, some poles that have been replaced.
Yeah.
Or taken down rather. Where are we on the double pole replacement?
I would need to find that out. That I.
Council
I have
Dameron,
to
why
check
don't
my
you drop
fingers.
that item?
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that, I'll do that with Counselor, with you and.
I can tell you that
And-
they've been
and
much
Cal-
better about
yeah,
it.
and President Laredo, because I know you've been in.
They've been, I'll answer quickly, they've been better, they're kind of stuck at pretty much the same place right now. They did make some significant progress.
Yeah.
The city actually made some very significant progress.
Mhm.
Fire in particular really did a very good
It's,
job
you
trying
transfer
to
the
get it caught
wires.
up, and it's just utilities are very slow.
Level 3 chargers.
Yes.
When could we expect that we could afford to do that?
It's not that we can't afford it. We need Eversource to bring them to us. We are working with Eversource on getting a grant for that. It is a long run from Elliott in, and I am not sure that they have the proper infrastructure to provide that level of charging right now.
And how many hours would it take to charge a large vehicle, a dump truck, on a level 3 charger?
Any idea? I would guess it's similar to
I've seen
charging
8
a
to 10
car.
hours.
Like 2 hours?
10
Eight-
hours.
8 to 10 hours.
8 to 10 hours on a
That's-
level 3 charger.
That's part of the problem, because also you have to remember that when we're doing our snow operations, these trucks are
They're
running
running
for
all the
24
time.
Yeah,
hours.
they're
or
24 hours.
more.
So we need a lot of level 3 chargers,
Mhm.
because you've gotta have one charger per truck.
If we have it all out, though, we need every truck on the road.
Right.
That's the other issue.
How many trucks?
Oh, in DPW?
We have 41 or 42
about 100.
large trucks
Yeah,
available
Okay,
for
so
us.
we're gonna need that many chargers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's not the issue.
No.
You'll
that's
never get
truly
the
not.
infrastructure, they'll never be able to provide the infrastructure
Structure for
to
us.
charge all those trucks at one time.
We would need it to be almost instantaneous
Yeah.
in order to do a good job with our snow clearing.
Yeah.
And they're not in use when they're charging, so
No,
if you're.
it's something we could look at for our sweepers
Yeah, maybe
and our
not.
yard waste collection.
Yeah,
Something like
that
that,
that you can
yes.
allow some downtime.
Yes, and let them
It
charge
adds a lot of
overnight.
weight to the truck too, doesn't it? Because a Tesla weighs as much as like a Ford.
Tesla is 7,000. It's a large battery.
Yeah, I'm just,
6,000.
adds weight to the vehicle. I was just wondering.
Yeah, it is definitely something we would be looking at for sweeping and for yard waste collection.
Yeah. It'll add weight, but they'll never tip over.
Never say never.
Yes, I'm done, thank you.
Okay, I've Council Wright, I'm just gonna ask a couple of quick questions. Council Gessie, you had your hand up too?
I do too.
Okay, can I just ask, the 16.5 million That's what you have to spend, 25 or 26?
25.
And how much of it did
That
you
will
spend?
roll into FY 26. These are all the contracts that we have existing, except the 5 million is included in that 16 million because we're going to open an award before the end of FY 25.
So you have 21 million obligated already towards
16.
projects?
16.
16, oh, that includes the 5
That
million.
includes the 5 million.
Okay. And so where is the new money for next year? That's the.
Chapter 90.
Yeah.
The free cash request, the override funding.
So do you have enough time to fix all these roads in this coming year?
No. It's going to be a challenge. We're gonna do our best to
When you
meet
hire
it.
those 40 new employees.
So if we have an additional paving contractor, we should get almost all of it done, if not all of it.
Okay. And I just want to ask one more quick question about composting. We got an email from a composter who is happy to be composting, but says, we're reducing the cost of the waste to the city and we're paying for it. Why don't we get any of the benefit back? So I think I forwarded that email to you and you said, that's interesting, or Juanita did, or somebody did.
So the less we are disposing of, the less it costs us, so there is a benefit.
There's a
in
benefit
the
to this.
overall city
Not to the
budget
individual.
because,
Yes.
not to the individual, it's the whole.
We're doing the city a favor by signing up for Black Earth.
Really, that's what.
780 tons, that's.
Okay, it's an interesting, it's costing these people money to save the city money.
Yes.
So.
But we're doing a good thing.
It is a really good
It's a
thing.
mitzvah.
I think the woman who thought it ought to be more than a mitzvah, it ought to be some rebate.
Was she composting in her backyard, or was she signed up?
No, she was signed, I think she signed up.
And then you have to pay if you want to buy the compost back from them that they've made out of your,
Yeah.
your
They
food
give you one
structure.
free.
They get you one.
Yeah,
People like to ask you,
Transfer
they
it
don't-
for it.
Okay, before I go to Counselor Wright, we'll do the table, so Counselor Getz, are you next?
I don't know. Well, I just have a few quick questions. When you talked about the levers that Mayor Fuller talked about the other day.
Oh, yes.
I didn't know, there were 9 of them, and she was talking about alternating weeks in terms of the recycling pickup. But are we not obligated in terms of the contract that we have established? I didn't know that we could renegotiate and sort of.
We're entering in a new contract, we can.
So you can do this annually? What is the?
We would
20 years.
negotiate with Waste Management. I don't think it reduces the amount that they're picking up, though, it'll
No,
still
no.
be the same,
It's just a
just less.
frequency.
Yes,
Right,
frequency.
but it's, I need to understand when you negotiate the contract, you're paying them every year, or can you
It's
actually
an
say?
annual contract.
Right, so you
For 5
would,
years.
you'd have to be forward thinking and you'd say, okay,
Mhm.
next year we're gonna
Yes.
alternate and the
Yeah,
number.
we
would
can
come down.
always reopen a contract and
Okay.
renegotiate.
Okay, great.
It is a clause within the Waste
All right.
Management contract.
And then of the 42 vacancies that you have, this is just a general understanding that I need to have. Does the money stay within your
It does.
department?
If you, the free cash request that includes 3.5 million, it includes 800,000 from attrition, which is salary savings. We also use it right now to fund utility contracts.
Oh, so you use it directly in your own department?
It does
Okay.
stay
Okay.
within
All
our
right.
department.
All right, and then, I think that's pretty much it. That was only, because I got some of these other questions answered.
Great.
Counselor Kelly?
Me too, I'll just follow up on that. And you're expecting to rehire all those positions.
That's the goal. We always have
Yeah.
some vacancies.
Right.
They fluctuate all of the time.
So in the meantime, you get to use the savings and then the positions are still open and the money will be there when you find the qualified people to
2
hire.
years ago, we had, I think, about 56 vacancies, just to give you a general, so we are steadily improving. We were much better probably 2 months ago than we are
I
today.
think we had it down to 27.
Yeah,
Do you feel
27.
understaffed?
In
Some-
engineering
some
right now,
divisions,
yes.
Yeah.
Engineering and utilities.
Yeah, those
is
guys.
up,
But
And
we-
fleet.
Okay.
It's significant.
Yeah, that was just a quick sweep up. The other thing is, people did touch on my questions. One was about the EV fleet. Another counselor had mentioned to me that she thought this was an area we could save a lot of money. She implied to me that a lot of the fleet is, she called it rented, but I'm wondering if she means, is your fleet owned or leased or
So
what?
we lease our electric vehicles.
Yeah,
It-
okay.
It is
That's what she's
actually a cost savings
Okay,
instead of
so I
buying and
will correct her
maintaining those
later.
vehicles. Because we do trade them
Yep.
in and get newer vehicles that are more efficient,
Okay.
and the lease costs are low.
So they are leased, the vehicles?
Not all of them, but
Like
yes.
say the cars.
So our car
Yeah.
pools, yeah,
Yeah, okay. Just
and
wanted
the
to
Department
clear on
of
that.
Health.
Last question was also, I'm curious about the phosphorus reduction program too. Is there anything that private residents can do to help with this? And is that
Yes.
like, I imagine that there is.
You can redevelop your property.
Yes.
And as part of that,
And not use
engineering is gonna require you to
fertilizer.
control stormwater. And we're gonna count up those points, whatever, 2
It is
pounds that
very
are to be
small.
saved on
Yeah,
your
but
property.
still-
But it still counts.
And we're making sure we're counting all of those little projects,
Yeah.
all the
We
way
are.
up to Northland. And everything in, all the way down to the
It's
small stuff, we're gonna
cumulative,
count them all.
The stormwater ordinance helps greatly, I want you all to know that,
Yeah.
because it does
Exactly.
require.
I just wonder what kind of, is there like a resident education program?
Yes,
Okay,
there is, and there's a nice brochure too, I know that engineering has
That
produced.
we produced it
yeah.
when somebody applies for a permit.
Right, so there's a whole, yeah.
but just in terms of regular lawn care, say, how to help educate people about the products they're using on their
I believe he
lawn.
has
We have-
one on
we
that.
have-
too.
You don't need a special permit, you
Um,
don't need a building permit, there are practices people could be.
We'll get you the
We'll
links, I
promote,
think they're on the website, but they're probably a little buried in some.
And we can do a promotion for DPW Day, because we'll have.
And where are the biggest problems for the city in terms of phosphorus? Is it about leaves?
It is leaves,
Yeah,
the geese,
yeah.
huge
Don't talk
contributors.
about geese.
Those are the biggest. The leaves are really
Yeah, I
big
hate the geese
contributors.
anyway for some
Um,
reason.
It's been around a long time.
And we have a
Can't believe
great sweeping program
Yeah.
that we're not getting full credit for. It's a shame.
Okay.
You have to,
The EPA has to approve.
But are
We are
these,
advocating for
say
it,
on
obviously.
public lands, on parks and rec places that then sort of rot and then
They
run into the
leach
trails? Yeah.
into the-
Yeah.
Yes.
You're about to see, actually, in the next week or two, if you drive by Albemarle down at the Craft Street end, underneath the new synthetic turf field, you're gonna see what Luis has done in terms of getting with Charles River Watershed Association to get a big grant to put in a whole system underneath that field.
Is that what that is?
So, yeah, it's in the works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, what is that?
Yeah.
Actually, Aaron hires our stormwater
Right.
engineer and working
Yeah,
closely.
So I'm wondering what
That's
that is.
actually
I
gonna
go
be
by
one
that
of
every
the
day.
biggest ones where we've ever done here in the city, where we get lots of, I don't know, how many pounds?
So that's gonna be
It's
5 or 10
smaller
pounds.
than I
drainage
thought
system?
it was. Actually, it was 55, I think, about 55 pounds.
Okay.
That
it's big.
huge pit, rectangular pit is gonna be like a drainage system?
It
Yes.
Yes.
Under the artificial
Yeah,
turf?
it holds
the
That's what
water
that
in
is, okay.
I was
Filters
shocked
it
at how
out.
much heavy equipment and work was going into
Yes,
it.
it's a big job.
Okay.
Okay, guys, it's 10:00, let's go.
That was all on mine.
Council, anybody else? Council Wright?
Okay, just got a question.
Thank you. A lot of my questions were touched upon. Going backwards, the phosphorus. So you said the leaves are the biggest or one of the biggest culprits, but you know, people, one of the things out there is you should reuse your leaves as fertilizer and things like that. Should we not be doing that?
So it's fine on private property. It isn't necessarily flowing into, it's our streets, the leaf cover on the streets. When
Okay.
they're leaching on the streets and going right into the catch basins, that's the biggest problem.
Okay. And then so you had, like, I think you said 42 vacancies, which is over 20%. That's, and you had it more. That's huge. Like, is it specific departments or is it why is so many?
It's very spread out. We just did, I think, 8 promotions in streets, which created 8 vacancies there. We've had a number of retirements. Our city engineer retired. We promoted Alfredo Vargas. Alfredo is, his position's now vacant. Our chief of survey just left the city to become a commissioner in a different community. And we've always had vacancies, 5 vacancies in our mechanic positions. They're very difficult.
Is there a way, is there a way to reduce those vacancies? I mean, have you thought about why, I know they're spread out all over the place, but you've always had quite a few vacancies.
So I don't know if you heard, it was down to 27 vacancies just 2 months ago. So it really is the promotions, retirements,
Good
and
things.
people leaving, all good things. And we are actively recruiting.
Okay. So that's like a 10% is a low amount, but that's still, or 15% seems high for any department that you're trying to run.
I understand. It's not.
And then Councilor Leary was talking about it and what the mayor talked about, you know, possibly doing recycling every other week. Do you have a rough, just a very, very rough idea what our recycling costs are? Is it?
I would need to check in with
10
one.
million? I have no idea where that number might be.
I would need to look at the contract.
Okay. Okay, that's it for me.
I
Thank
will
you.
get you the information.
The mayor is throwing out concepts, levers, I believe is the term she used,
Yes.
to things to think about, in the future for potentially the next mayor.
Well, most people don't fill up the recycle bins. I actually have 2 and I do fill those up, but most people don't.
Is that, you all said, Councilor Wright?
Yes, thank you.
I have one more question, which is about, I got a call from a constituent yesterday, or 2 days ago, saying that she just got one of the large water bills. So I called on her behalf to the water department and found out that you are not automatically smoothing. I thought you were.
We are. We need to go backwards. Was it needs to hit a threshold though?
Well, hers was nearly $10,000. I'm sure that was hitting the threshold.
No.
They hadn't been smoothed. It hadn't been smoothed.
No, we will absolutely smooth it, but 10,000 doesn't hit the threshold. We have water bills that are 200,000.
I know, but for most residents, a
Not
$10,000 water bill is big.
Sure.
So
It is.
she didn't know anything about smoothing, so I said, let me call and find out about it. So I really think if you give these big bills, at least you ought to let them know the option of smoothing.
I absolutely agree with you. I will investigate. That really shouldn't have happened. I'm happy she called. I do know that for some of them, we do have to go back because we implemented the smoothing after the fact. We are going to have to smooth all of the estimated bills at some point.
Yeah, probably. That makes
Yes,
sense.
no, we have to make it equitable.
Okay, so, and I never read these things into the record, so let me, before anybody makes a motion, let me read them into the record of what we've just been talking about.
Just so everyone's aware, I did review some of the capital projects in my presentation that are included in the supplemental CIP. I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone has any questions on those.
Yeah, we didn't, all those free cash items didn't make it through.
I know, I was just giving you a highlight
Yeah.
of the upcoming ones,
Yeah.
especially as it pertains to sustainable materials.
Okay. So we've just been discussing, not so much the 35124 is the review of the capital improvement plan for 26 to 30. 8125 is we didn't do that one. 8225 is the capital improvement. Well, where's the actual budget here? 8125 is the school and city operating budget. So those are the items that we've been discussing.
Before you vote,
Yeah.
can I just add, because Council Maliki left, but I'm sure she would be happy to know that we're planning on doing a hydrological analysis for Porter Street
Oh, excellent.
in FY 26. That is
Excellent.
one of our capital improvement
Excellent.
items.
I did not review the capital improvement plan.
So if you all would look at the CIP, the supplemental CIP,
Yeah, could you
and then if you have any questions, please let us know, whether it's DPW or any other
I
department.
did touch on a number of the
Yeah,
pump stations, a
you
part
did.
of that, our water lining, our I&I program, our paving program are all part of the CIP.
Okay, and will you provide us your PowerPoint?
Of course, I already did.
Okay, good, thank you. So, anybody else have questions? No? You mean we haven't been here long enough to?
We still have other items.
No.
Be honest.
Yeah, they should go fast.
Yeah.
So, can I have a motion? This is for a straw vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Move to
Accept,
Okay,
as presented.
as presented. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Counselor Kalis and Counselor Gentile, are you still with us?
Yep, bye.
Thank you. Counselor Gentile is perhaps here, perhaps not.
He's on there.
He is there.
Okay, well, we'll assume he said voted yes. Let us know if you don't vote yes.
Or it's 7 to 9.
That's probably what it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
A lot of
much.
work to
Have a great rest
do.
of the night.
Thank you
all
for paving
Online,
Because
fire
we're all
lines,
on very
that's the better
fabulous.
one.
I'm glad you're happy. We're not done yet, but. But it's done.
You can also read the letter.
Sorry, I had to
Thank
say.
you.
Bye, thank you all.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear so late.
And the Celtics won, if anybody.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, look at this.
What was
My
the score?
husband and my son. My son is occupying my seat and that's
Oh.
them on the jumbotron.
Well, I will admit to watching.
Dedicated.
much of the game.
I'm here instead of there.
I had to see what was
And last
happening.
night was the Red Sox game, both my kids were at that.
Oh, yeah. Porzingis got bloodied in the middle of the forehead,
Yeah.
in the middle of the game, but he survived.
I thought you were using your phone as a computer.
Priorities.
Okay, these are all reappointments, so how about we vote them all? Yep. 9325 is the reappointment of Howard Goldberg to the Designer Selection Committee.
So moved.
9425 is the reappointment of Amy Mackerel to the Designer Selection Committee. 9525 is the reappointment of Carol Shine to the Design Review Committee. 9625 is the reappointment of Peter Barrow to the Design Review Committee. And 9725 is the reappointment of David Gillespie to the Design Review Committee.
I move approval.
Oh, I want it.
Oh.
I'm so on the design committee.
Go ahead, you do it. You do it.
All right, Counselor
I
Kelly
would
is
be
with
happy to,
approval.
because I know them all. I move approval of all of them.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we're done.
Good, excellent.
Thank you.
Very good.
It was a long night.
All right, yeah. But,
Shorter than land use.